Chapter 731. Parking conflict, yes. Where is it? Linny asked. It's at 528 Changdong Avenue. The building is called Changxiang Garden. You'll see it when you come here, Fatty Lai said. Okay, you go ahead with your work. I'll be there in a while. I'll call you when I've decided on the unit. Linny said. After hanging up the phone, Linny turned to Mrs. Tang and said, Auntie, let's go pick out a house later. I'll get someone to give us a discount based on the house size we like. There's a better discount? That's great. Mrs. Tang liked to take advantage of others, so when she heard what Linny said, she was elated. She heard that the real estate was already on sale, so how could she not be happy if she could get a discount on top of that? She increasingly felt that Linny was a good man. If her daughter were to follow him, she wouldn't have to worry about anything in the future. The three of them sat in Lin Yi's van and headed towards Changdong Avenue. Although Lin Yi's car wasn't much, Mrs. Tang thought it was good enough to have a car. How many people in the shantytown owned a car? Tang Yun, did you ask for leave? Lin Yi was used to skipping class, but Tang Yun was a good student, so she rarely skipped class. There was a poisoning incident at school yesterday, so there's no class today. I heard that the chairman of Pengzhan Industries is going to hold a press conference, and many students and parents are going to attend. So, the school is temporarily self-studying. Tang Yun thought of Meng Yao when she mentioned the chairman of Pengzhan Industries. Meng Yao gave Tang Yun the feeling that she didn't have the bad habits of rich kids at all. She was a little arrogant, but she was easy to get along with. Changxiang Garden's location was not bad. Changdong Avenue was one of the newly built third ring road this year. Hence, on the first day of Changxiang Garden's opening, it attracted many property buyers. The entrance of Changxiang Garden's sales office was already filled with cars. It took him a while to find a parking spot, and he parked the car in. A horn sounded from behind him, followed by a man cursing loudly. Where the hell did you come from, J8 van? I saw this spot first. Why'd you take it away from me? Motherf asterisk her. Pour it out. Linny frowned and got out of the car, only to see a bald man sticking his head out of a BMW parked behind his car and cursing. Watch your mouth. Don't get yourself into trouble. Linny glanced at him indifferently and said, F asterisk CK. I don't know what to do with a broken bread. The bald man didn't expect Lin Yi to dare to talk back and threaten him. He immediately became angry. Do you believe that I won't kill you? With that said, the bald man started the car and rushed toward Lin Yi. Of course, he was just trying to scare Lin Yi. He wouldn't dare to crash into him. After all, if he killed someone in front of everyone, he wouldn't be able to get away with it. At that time, he was afraid that he would go to jail. Although he had money, this kind of thing wasn't easy to settle. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Just as the BMW was about to slam into him, Lin Yi raised his leg and kicked the hood of the BMW, causing it to stop abruptly. The bald man was shocked. There was actually someone who could step on a car and stop it? Who was this person? He suddenly felt guilty. Although he often went out to act bad *SS, he still didn't dare to act bad *S when he encountered such a ruthless character. If he didn't act well, he would be beaten up. Therefore, although the bald man was angry, he didn't dare to do anything to Lin Yi. He stopped the car and quickly got out. He found that the hood of his car was stepped on. He was even more afraid, but he didn't want to show weakness. He snorted coldly, Kid, you're good. Let's wait and see. He didn't dare to let Lin Yi repair his car, and he didn't care about the repair fee. He said ruthless words to regain some face. He was the boss of the Shinsuan taxi company. He had some money on hand. Today, he came to buy a house with the money he had just bought. Naturally, he didn't want to let the boss look down on him. Lin Yi smiled faintly and didn't say anything. This kind of person was almost everywhere, so Lin Yi didn't need to be angry because of this kind of person. The bald man glared at Lin Yi and returned to the car. He said to the woman in the front passenger seat, What is he? He doesn't know how to drive a broken car. He's just a bumpkin. Watch how I deal with him later. CEO Wu, don't bother with this kind of person. Being angry with him is degrading. How could the woman not see that her man didn't dare to go head-on with Lin Yi? However, she wouldn't say it out loud. If she did, CEO Wu would be angry and forget about buying a house. Yeah, it seems like they are here to buy a house. When the time comes, let's see what they want to buy and give them a hard time. CEO Wu nodded, started the car, and went to find another parking space. Tang Yun and Mrs. Tang got out of the car. They also saw the scene before, but they didn't know what exactly happened. Since Linny had solved it, there was no need to ask. The three of them walked into the sales center. Immediately, a sales lady greeted them and began to introduce the real estate in Changxiang Garden to Mrs. Tang. It had to be said that Fatty Lie's management was quite good. Mrs. Tang didn't look like a rich person, but the sales lady didn't look down on her because of that. Is there a discount for buying a house here? Mrs. Tang was most concerned about the discount. She didn't wait for the sales lady to finish her introduction and asked. She didn't care if there were schools around the house or if there was a business district. What she cared about was the price of the house. The price was cheap, but it didn't matter if there was nothing else. Her daughter was going to university. What did it matter to her whether there was a school or not? Not to mention the business district. Other than the wholesale market, her family's food and necessities came from the night market. They couldn't afford to go to those high-end shopping malls. Yes, there is a promotion today. All the units are 5% off, and if you buy the house in full, you can enjoy a 10% discount. You also have a chance to win the grand prize of the exquisite renovation. The sales lady said, "Can it be cheaper?" Mrs. Tang asked. "This is the price set by the boss. We don't have the right to change it." The sales lady smiled. "Okay, then let's look at the location and the units." Mrs. Tang nodded. The sales lady brought Lin Yi and the others to look at the sand table. Mrs. Tang chose a building with better lighting and location and said, "I want this building, right? Do you have the floor plan?" "Yes, please wait a moment." The sales lady found the floor plan and passed it to Mrs. Tang. Chapter 732. Don't treat me like this in the future, Auntie. You really have good taste. This building is one of the best locations in the entire district, second only to the villas and the bungalows over there. Not only does it have a good view, there aren't any tall buildings blocking it. It's very spacious. The sales lady introduced. Lily, Ian. What do you guys think? What type of apartment do you guys think we should get? Mrs. Tang couldn't make up her mind. It was easy to choose a building from the sand table. It was easy to see which location was good and which wasn't. The building that Mrs. Tang chose was in a good location, and the price wasn't too high. This was something that Mrs. Tang and Tang Yin agreed on. There were many different types of apartments in this building, and they had to discuss which one to choose and which floor to go with. Mrs. Tang was excited at first, thinking that buying a house was easy. But now that she was standing here, she realized that buying a house wasn't that easy. At least for now, Mrs. Tang was a little dizzy. Every floor had its own benefits. The first floor could be used for business, the second and third floors were more convenient for older people, the fourth and fifth floors were the golden floors, and the sixth and seventh floors were cheap and had a good view. It wasn't easy to choose. "Let's get a 3-bedroom unit?" Linny looked at the layout and suggested. "I think this unit is not bad." Linny saw the hesitation on Mrs. Tang's face and suggested. "That's fine. We'll go with this unit then. This unit is 120 square meters. Isn't it a little big?" Mrs. Tang was afraid that it would be too expensive. "Auntie, if you look at this unit, you have to hurry up because there is only one unit left on the third floor. The others have been sold." The sales lady said, "It can be seen that this unit is very good. Everyone's judgment is not wrong." Only the third floor is left?" Mrs. Tang was shocked and nervous. This unit was too easy to sell, wasn't it? She wanted to decide, but she couldn't make the decision. After all, she had never made a decision like this in her life. "Let's go with the third floor. The lighting is good, and it's easy to go upstairs." Linny smiled. "Ugh, then the third floor. We'll pick this one." Mrs. Tang nodded. "Can we look at the existing house?" "That's naturally not a problem. Please follow me." The sales lady nodded and said to the other customers nearby, "Is there anyone else who wants to see the quality of the existing houses? I'm heading over now. Follow me if you're with me." "Let's go too." The bald boss Wu walked over with his mistress and said proudly. Under the watchful eyes of the public, he was not afraid of Lin Yi. There were security guards here. He did not believe that Lin Yi would dare to hit him. If he really hit someone, he would definitely make him suffer the consequences. With his power in Songshan City, how could he not be able to kill a kid driving a van? Linny saw that the bald boss Wu also came to join in the fun, but he didn't bother with him. He sneered at him. If he wanted to follow, then so be it. He had no reason to chase away the guy who came to give money to Fatty Lai. They left the sales office with the sales lady and got on an electric car. The bald boss Wu's perverted eyes glanced at Tang Yun's body and then looked at Lin Yi with jealousy. This girl was so beautiful, but she was taken by this poor kid. God must be blind. He looked at the mistress beside him. Obviously, she was not just one level lower than him. If Tang Yun was his mistress, he would buy her a villa, not to mention this building. The bald boss Wu was thinking about how to show off his strength in front of Tang Yun. He had to admit that the bald boss Wu was very good at reading people. He could see that Tang Yun's mother was a typical greedy woman. If he offered enough benefits, Mrs. Tang would persuade her daughter to follow him. So, as long as he was strong enough and made that little bastard Linny suffer, he wouldn't have to worry about not being able to get the beauty back. Thinking up to this point, CEO Wu was overjoyed. His hand that was hugging his mistress became naughty. His mistress was also flirtatious. She panted on the electric scooter, making the sales lady and Tang Yun blush. They thought, why is this person like this? Doesn't he know shame? If he wanted to touch her, he could touch her at home. Why did he touch her here? Linny squeezed Tang Yun's hand and smiled. Tang Yun was even more embarrassed. She glared at Lin Yi and whispered, "Don't do this to me in the future." Huh. You are different from her. The woman beside the bald boss Wu is just playing with you, Lin Yi understood. Then, you aren't just playing with me? Tang Yun was nervous. Although she had an answer in her heart, the Miss, Yushu, Guan Xian, and even Ling Shan made her feel uneasy. I'm just playing with you, Lin Yi smiled. You're so annoying. Why do you sound so bad? Tang Yun got the answer she wanted and pouted. CEO Wu looked at Lin Yi and Tang Yun flirting with each other in front of him. His eyes were red with jealousy. Motherfucker. He had to get his hands on this girl. Mrs. Tang's mind was filled with the house. She didn't hear the flirting sounds between the bald boss Wu and his mistress. She didn't hear the whispers between her daughter and Lin Yi. Her mind was completely focused on the surrounding environment and the houses. There was such a beautiful area. Mrs. Tang's eyes widened as she looked at the green construction. Compared to the previous shanty town, this was 100 times, 1,000 times better. There was a small park, a pavilion, a man-made lake, and the houses were so beautiful. If she could live in this area in the future, wouldn't she become a rich person? High-class person? We're here. It's here. The sales lady parked the electric scooter in front of a beautiful building. Wow, it's so beautiful. Mrs. Tang looked at the building in front of her. The more she looked at it, the more she liked it. We can see the park downstairs from here? It's not bad. Yeah, that's why this building is selling fast. This kind of big apartment is quite popular. Now there's only the 3rd floor left. If you like it, you should hurry up and sign the contract. Otherwise, it might be taken by someone else. The sales lady nodded. Mrs. Tang became anxious after hearing the sales lady's words. She nodded. Then let's go up and take a look first. Hubby, it's so beautiful here. Can you buy it for me? The mistress, who hadn't spoken until now, suddenly spoke to the bald boss Wu. Chapter 733. Raising the price, you are too good to me. The honey hugged the bald man and kissed him fiercely before going upstairs with the sales lady. Mrs. Tang fell in love with the new house on the 3rd floor. Wasn't it too beautiful? Bright floor-to-ceiling windows, a comfortable layout, and a large living room. It was the dream house that was often seen on TV. Mrs. Tang gritted her teeth and decided to buy it. She must buy it. This house was too beautiful. How much is this house? Mrs. Tang asked nervously. Auntie, this house is 950,000, the sales lady said after looking at the sales booklet. That's expensive. Mrs. Tang's heart ached. Although she just received 3 million yesterday, she didn't want to give away the money in her hands. She asked, can this house be any cheaper? I'm sorry, Auntie, my authority is limited to the discounts I mentioned before. If you want more discounts, you will have to talk to our boss personally. However, if you are only buying one house, the boss probably won't give you any discounts. The sales lady said honestly. Only 950,000? So cheap? CEO Wu spoke up. What discounts do you need for 950,000? It's too cheap even if you don't want those discounts, right? As he spoke, CEO Wu glanced at his mistress beside him. Yeah, this money is just a drop in the bucket for you, President Wu. It's nothing. The mistress also echoed. It's too cheap. Tang Yun couldn't help but feel annoyed after hearing their words. What were they trying to say? They weren't the ones buying the house. Why were they involved? Tang Yun glared at CEO Wu and his mistress. Mrs. Tang was also very angry. Were these two here to cause trouble? CEO Wu saw that Tang Yun was looking at him and thought that Tang Yun was looking at him. He was overjoyed and got carried away. Shaoli, what do you think of this house? If it's okay, I'll buy it for you. Okay, I like it very much. We will buy this set. Xiaomi, who was called Shaoli, nodded and said happily. Linny snickered in his heart. These two must have teamed up to come here to show off, right? Keep pretending. Let's see how long you can pretend for. Miss, I want this house. Let's sign the contract. Baldy CEO Wu said to the sales lady. Sir, this house was seen by this auntie first. Do you want to wait for this auntie to make a decision before you consider it? The sales lady asked with some embarrassment. You saw her first? What's wrong with liking her? He hadn't bought it yet, had he? If they didn't buy it, it doesn't belong to them. Baldy CEO Wu snorted coldly. Do you know how to do things properly? Whoever pays first gets to hand over the money. They haven't even signed the contract yet. Hurry up and sign it for us. We'll buy it. We'll buy it right now. Mrs. Tang panicked. She had worked so hard to get her eyes on the house. How could it be snatched away by someone else? No, absolutely not. We said we wanted to buy it first. You're too late. Shaoli rolled her eyes at Mrs. Tang in disdain. Look at how poor you are. You can't afford this house. You should save your money and buy a bungalow in the countryside. Why can't we afford it? We saw it first, so we have the priority to buy it. Tang Yun was furious when she heard Shaoli's words. She glared at Shaoli and retorted. Forget it. There's no point in arguing with you. Baldy CEO Wu wanted to show off his strong image. He turned to the sales lady and said, How about this? 950,000 yuan. I don't want any of the discounts. Hurry up and sign the contract. The sales lady was in a dilemma. If CEO Wu didn't want a discount, then she would definitely be praised by the boss after she sold the house. Her bonus this month wouldn't be small, but if she did that, it would be unfair to Mrs. Tang's family. Isn't there a saying that goes like this? The highest bidder wins. If we offer a higher price, it belongs to us. What are you hesitating for? Shaoli said to the sales lady and looked at Mrs. Tang provocatively. We don't want the discount. If you don't want the discount, we will sell it to you. Can you not want it? I. Mrs. Tang's face turned red. How could there be such a person? However, she really needed the discount. We don't want the discount either, Tang Yun said. Although her heart ached, Lin Yi was holding her hand from behind. She knew that it was Lin Yi's intention, so she said it. Oh. Baldy CEO Wu was surprised. He didn't expect Tang Yun to be so decisive. However, how could he give up the house that he got? On one hand, he couldn't afford to lose face in front of his mistress. On the other hand, he wanted to show off his strength in front of Tang Yun and her mother. If he ran away with his tail between his legs, how could he show off his strength? Thinking of this, Baldy gritted his teeth and said, How about this? I'll pay 1 million. Sign the contract. The sales lady was dumbfounded. She had only heard of rich people bidding against each other to buy villas, but she had never heard of people bidding against each other to buy a normal house. Moreover, the price increased by 50,000 yuan. Wasn't this too unbelievable? 1 million. What are you waiting for? Don't you want your bonus? If your boss knew that you didn't want the money, he would fire you. Shaoli threatened the sales lady. The sales lady looked at Mrs. Tang awkwardly. We will pay 1 million too. Tang Yun had no choice but to raise the price. Since Linny was hinting for her to continue bidding, Tang Yun didn't want to, but she still made a bid. CEO Wu frowned. He didn't expect Tang Yun to raise the price with him. Did they have that much money? Driving a broken van wasn't even worth 20,000 yuan. She dared to raise the price by 50,000 yuan? Could it be that he really wanted to go against him? However, CEO Wu couldn't show weakness now. If Tang Yun could afford it, why couldn't he? He was the boss of XINCUN Taxi Company. It was the biggest taxi company in Songshan. He had Sihua Bro's support. If he really gave up today and left with his tail between his legs, not only would he lose his face, but he would also lose Sihua Bro's face. So, even if CEO Wu felt that it wasn't worth it to increase the price to buy a house, he had no choice. He had no way out now. He could only bite the bullet and say, 1,100,000 yuan. I don't have time to waste with them. Hurry up and sign the contract. Chapter 734. Who are you talking about? Spending 1 million yuan on a 950,000 yuan house? Is this for real? In front of this building, 1 million could buy a house that was even bigger than this one. The location and lighting were also similar. We'll pay 1 million too. Tang Yun said and saw Linny squeezing her hand again. We'll pay 15 million. Huh. CEO Wu looked at Tang Yun in disbelief. She dared to pay a higher price than him? Where did she get her confidence from? Was she trying to look impressive? But seeing Lin Yi's actions, CEO Wu understood that Lin Yi was going against him. Great. You still dare to increase the price? He felt that Lin Yi's limit was 15 million. Otherwise, why didn't he pay 2 million? He didn't have much money left. He couldn't pay that much. Therefore, CEO Wu gritted his teeth and said, 2 million. 2 million. Hurry up and sign the contract. On the other hand, CEO Wu felt that spending 2 million yuan to buy a 950,000 yuan house was a bit extravagant, but he had successfully gained face. He had also successfully displayed his strength in front of Mrs. Tang and Tang Yun. He felt a sense of accomplishment. This was the first step to success. Then, he just needed to humiliate Lin Yi, and he could talk to Mrs. Tang about Tang Yun being Tang Yun's sugar daddy. Oh, then I'll sell it to you. Let's look at the others. Tang Yun got Lin Yi's hint and shook her head. This one isn't ideal. 2 million isn't worth it? Not worth it? I think you guys don't have money? Xiaoli said sarcastically. She was very happy in her heart. Baldy Boss Wu had bought such an expensive house for her, which made her feel very proud. We don't spend money recklessly. Tang Yun pouted. Luckily, Lin Yi only asked Baldy CEO Wu to spend some money and didn't use his own money to buy a house. Otherwise, Tang Yun would have fallen asleep at the thought of spending an extra 25 yuan on a house. Seeing that Tang Yun's family had given up, the sales lady didn't make things difficult for them anymore. Since someone was willing to pay a high price to buy the house, why not? Sir, shall we sign the contract now? The sales lady asked. Nonsense. I finally succeeded in the bidding. What if someone else snatches it from me? Baldy CEO Wu glared at the real estate sales lady and shouted, Okay, then we'll go back to the sales office to sign the contract. The sales lady looked at Mrs. Tang apologetically. Auntie, why don't you come back with me? I'll help you find another good house. Okay. Mrs. Tang had no other choice. She didn't want to spend another 250,000 yuan on a house. Moreover, Mrs. Tang wanted to make it cheaper on this basis. Can't your daughter find this boyfriend? What's the big deal about spending 25 more? It's just a piece of cake for me. Baldy CEO Wu went downstairs and casually said to Mrs. Tang when he got on the electric car. Mrs. Tang glared at him and didn't reply. She thought to herself, if my son-in-law was an idiot like you, adding 200,000 yuan to buy a house, that would be unacceptable. Since my son-in-law is buying a house for me, the cheaper the better. Baldy shrugged his shoulders when Mrs. Tang didn't reply. He started hugging his sweetheart again. This person is so annoying. Tang Yun complained to Lin Yi softly after getting on the car. Heh, there are so many houses. Why would I be afraid that I can't find a suitable one? Let alone 250,000 yuan. I can afford it even if it's 1 million yuan. But can Auntie accept it? Lin Yi smiled. Of course not. You should find a cheaper one for her. Otherwise, if she really spends too much money, she'll get sick. Tang Yun sighed. She understood her mother's personality. The six of them returned to the sales office. The sales lady first signed the contract for Baldy CEO Wu. The contract was ready-made. She just downloaded it from the computer and printed it. Baldy CEO Wu waved his pen and was about to sign his name on the contract. His sweetheart was a little unhappy. Didn't we agree to write my name? Why did it change again? Baldy CEO Wu shifted his target to Tang Yun. No matter how he looked at it, Tang Yun was much stronger than Shaoli, so he didn't want to invest too much in Shaoli, so he played a trick when he signed the contract. He didn't expect Shaoli to be so smart, pointing it out right away. I forgot. Baldy CEO Wu laughed. He was showing off in front of Tang Yun and her mother. How could he show weakness now? If Mrs. Tang thought that he was stingy and didn't even buy a house for a woman, then why would she help him persuade Tang Yun? Shaoli wrote her name on the paper with a smile and kissed Boss Wu happily. Sir, you can pay now. May I know if you want to pay in cash or by bank card? The sales lady was very happy that she sold a house. Her boss would definitely praise her if she sold it for an extra 250,000 yuan, right? Nonsense. Of course, by bank card. Who would bring more than 1,000,000 yuan out of the house? Isn't that an idiot who has never seen money? Baldy stared at the sales lady unhappily and took out a bank card. F*CKU. Who are you calling an idiot? A big guy carrying a big black plastic bag suddenly appeared out of nowhere. He grabbed the bald CEO Wu's collar and said, Do you want to die? Brother, I'm sorry. I wasn't talking about you. CEO Wu was shocked. This big guy gave him a much stronger visual impact than Lin Yi. Although Lin Yi was quite powerful and could stop the car with a kick, he wasn't that big. Baldy Wu didn't think that he was that scary. However, this big guy in a black singlet with tattoos all over his body gave Baldy CEO Wu a shock. Moreover, even if the security guards came, he was the one in the wrong. Who asked him to call someone an idiot? Therefore, CEO Wu quickly apologized. I don't have time to waste with you, Baldy. I can use this bag of money to kill you. The big guy was obviously in a hurry to do something. He let go of CEO Wu and left, which made CEO Wu heave a sigh of relief. Chapter 735. The same price, that's just a small amount of money. It doesn't matter. Shaoli, if you want to go for the lottery, then go for it. CEO Wu said casually. Actually, he wanted to win the lottery, but if he acted like he cared too much about it, wouldn't it make him look greedy? That wouldn't do. His previous image would be in vain. Of course, I like it. My luck is good. Let's see how lucky I am. Shaoli was eager to try. Sir, you bought the house at a high price. Why don't I help you ask the manager to give you 2 chances to draw the lottery? The sales lady asked. It's nothing. What do you think, Shaoli? CEO Wu's heart started to move. He spent 250,000 yuan for nothing. It was a huge loss. If he got the special or first prize during the lottery, wouldn't he earn it all back? However, he didn't want to show it directly. He asked Shaoli, that's not good, right? We'll draw twice. Shaoli opened her mouth and saw CEO Wu's face darken. She was shocked and didn't dare to continue. CEO Wu was furious. Are you King stupid? You don't want it even if I give it to you for free? You have money now, right? It's nothing. I'll apply for it for you now. The sales lady didn't notice CEO Wu's expression and said with a smile. This time, CEO Wu was very pleased with the real estate sales lady. She had finally done a good deed. The manager of the sales office was accompanying Fatty Lai. He didn't expect the boss of the group to come here personally. After receiving a call from the sales lady, Manager Wang said to Fatty Lai, CEO Lai, I'll go over first. There's a sales lady looking for me to deal with something. Let's go and have a look together. Fatty Lai didn't have anything to do. Fatty Lai didn't follow Lin Yi when he said he wanted to look at the house first. Fatty Lai guessed that Lin Yi didn't want to give Tang Yun's family a house directly, so he didn't want to be too attentive. Manager Wang and Fatty Lai found the sales lady. Fatty Lai saw Lin Yi and Tang Yun at the side. He was stunned. However, when he saw Lin Yi's eyes, he understood that Lin Yi didn't want him to be too obvious. Lin Yi was actually thinking for Tang Yun's sake. Tang Yun's personality was strong, and she wouldn't want to accept a house for no reason. She wouldn't be able to say anything if Fatty Lai sold it to her at a discount. Mr. Lin, Miss Tang, Annie Tang. Fatty Lai greeted Lin Yi and Tang Yun passionately. The sales lady didn't know Fatty Lai, so she didn't know what Fatty Lai did. She wasn't surprised and directly said to Manager Wang, "Manager Wang, this is what happened. This Mr. Wu and this Annie both had their eyes on the same house. This Mr. Wu and this Annie had a bidding war. In the end, Mr. Wu won the house at a price higher than the original price. Now that he has paid and signed the contract, can we give him a few more chances to draw the lottery?" Manager Wang was surprised. There was such a person? Spending 250,000 for a house? Did he hear it wrong? But when he saw the contract the sales lady handed over, he believed that it wasn't a joke. Manager Wang was puzzled. What was the relationship between CEO Lai, Lin Yi, and the auntie who participated in the bidding? If he agreed to let him draw the lottery a few more times, would he offend CEO Lai? So he couldn't help but look at Lai Changyi. He might not win even if he draws a few more times. Mrs. Tang curled her lips and said with disdain. Manager Wang heard Mrs. Tang's words and obviously didn't care about CEO Wu drawing the lottery. He nodded and agreed. "Okay, 3 times. I'll give him 2 more chances. Sir, you can go draw the lottery now." "Shaoli, go ahead." The bald CEO Wu waved his hand without a care. Mrs. Tang had never seen Lai Changyi before. She didn't know what Lai Changyi did, but seeing that he was respectful to her, she nodded in confusion. "Hello, you are? Auntie, I'm Mr. Lin's friend. He asked me to help you research a special price house," Lai Changyi said. Tang Yun glanced at Fatty Lai. Who was he putting on a show for? "You're lying to my mom, right?" Tang Yun wasn't stupid. She knew that Linny cared about her face and wouldn't let Fatty Lai give her a house directly. Instead, he would sell the house at a low price to help her family. Although Tang Yun was touched, she also felt uncomfortable. She felt that Linny was colluding with Fatty Lai to lie to her. However, Tang Yun thought of her mother's personality and immediately understood Lin Yi's good intentions. If Fatty Lai acted like he was Lin Yi's follower, then her mother wouldn't spend a single cent at all. She might even ask Fatty Lai for a house. If her mother asked for a house, what would she do? What would she do? Thinking of this, Tang Yun couldn't help but feel grateful for Lin Yi's actions. So that's how it is. I finally got my eyes on a house and I was wondering if I could get a discount. In the end, that person bought it for 250,000 yuan. I'm so pissed. Mrs. Tang saw that Linny found a friend to help her and immediately complained. "Do you have any houses similar to this one? It's best if you can give me a discount." "Do you?" Fatty Lai looked at Manager Wang and asked. Yes. Manager Wang was shocked. What kind of relationship did this Annie have? How could she order CEO Lai to speak? He quickly opened the sales booklet and looked for it. Then, he said, "There's another building beside the one that Auntie has her eyes on. It's just that it's 30 meters bigger than this one. The price is 1.2 million. What? Even if it's 30 meters bigger than this one, it's still 1.2 million? Baldy Boss Wu also heard Manager Wang's call. He instantly widened his eyes and asked subconsciously. He spent the same amount of money but bought a small house. What kind of logic was this? Yes, the floor plan is the same as yours, but it's the building next to yours. The sales lady nodded and smiled at the bald CEO Wu. Why didn't you say so earlier? Didn't you say that this was the only one left? At this moment, CEO Wu couldn't care less about being pretentious anymore. He had spent an extra 250,000 yuan for no reason. The other side was 30 meters bigger than his and had the same floor plan, but it was only 1.2 million yuan. Wasn't he a big shot? Chapter 736. Chapter 0736. Smart Tang Yun, CEO Wu was dumbfounded. That's right. He didn't ask and competed with Tang Yun's family. How would he know that there was a bigger house in the building next door? Then can I change it? I'm sorry, your information is already online. You can't change it. The sales lady shook her head regretfully. Forget it. I don't need this little money. I'll buy something I like. CEO Wu gritted his teeth and comforted himself. That's right. We'll buy a bigger house with the same amount of money. Mrs. Tang was delighted. She turned to Fatty Lai and asked, "Then can we get a discount on this house?" "Yes, why not?" Fatty Lai thought about it and said, "How about this? The house just now was sold for 250,000 yuan because of the competition with Auntie. So, I'll give you a discount of 250,000 yuan for this house. It'll still be 950,000 yuan, and the other discounts won't change. How about it? Manager Wang, is that okay?" Since CEO Lai said so, how could Manager Wang say no? This property belonged to CEO Lai. He was just an employee. So he quickly said, "Okay. If CEO Lai says it's okay, then it's okay." But Manager Wang was shocked. What was the relationship between these people and Lai Chang'e? He had actually slashed 250,000 yuan in one go, and he would still be able to enjoy other housing discounts after that. This level of strength was simply unprecedented. Baldy CEO Wu was already depressed. He had wasted 250,000 yuan to buy a small house. This money was enough to buy a big house. But in order to show that he was rich, he endured it. But this CEO Lai used his own money to give Mrs. Tang a discount. Wasn't he cheating them? He almost rolled his eyes and fainted. This act was such a failure. He felt like an idiot. Not only did he not cheat Tang Yun's family, but he cheated 250,000 yuan of his own money. Not only did they get a house that they liked, but it was also cheaper by 250,000 yuan. Just as he was feeling depressed, Xiaoli came back with an electric rice cooker, a microwave oven, and an electric kettle. She said happily, "Honey, I've won so many prizes. I've saved money on home appliances. What's the use of these things?" Greedy. The bald CEO who had lost 250,000 yuan for nothing, and he was unhappy. Seeing that Xiaoli was still so happy after drawing a few lousy prizes, he immediately became angry. "It's fine if it's the grand prize and first prize, but why are you showing off these lousy prizes? Hurry up and leave. Are you going to embarrass yourself here?" Baldy CEO Wu really couldn't stay any longer. It was too stifling. He felt that he had suffered a huge loss today. He had never suffered such a loss before. Xiaoli was suddenly at a loss of what to do after being scolded by Baldy Wu. She was pulled out of the sales office by Baldy Wu. Mrs. Tang pursed her lips and sneered at the two of them. "What the hell? Are you dumbfounded?" Mrs. Tang had been depressed about not being able to buy a house. Now that she had finally found one, it was snatched away. How could she feel good about that? But now, she was so happy that she was about to jump high. Lin Yi's face was still big. He casually gave her a discount of 250,000 yuan. With such a discount, she would smile even in her dreams when she went home. Accompanied by Fatty Lai and Manager Wang, Mrs. Tang went to look at the house again. This time, she was even happier than before. This house was obviously much bigger. The previous house had 3 bedrooms and 1 living room. This one had 4 bedrooms and 1 living room. The layout was similar, but there was an extra storage room. The price was the same as the previous one. It was so worth it. Okay, I'll take this one." Mrs. Tang didn't hesitate this time. "Shall I? It's great that my Xiaoi has a friend like you. You're flattering me." Fatty Lai wiped his sweat. "I'm lucky to have a good boss. Otherwise, I wouldn't be so powerful right now. Even Lu Tianyi has to be respectful when he sees me now. In the future, House Lai will also be a noble house, and the biggest one at that. They won't even bother to be on the same level as the 4 small noble houses of the 5 worlds." Fatty Lai was very far-sighted. He felt that Lin Yi would one day soar into the sky. As long as he followed in Lin Yi's footsteps, glory and wealth would be at his fingertips. Under Manager Wang's personal supervision, the contract was quickly signed. Mrs. Tang paid the money and got a chance to draw a prize. "Auntie, I'll take you to the draw." Who was Manager Wang? He was a shrewd person in society. If he wasn't, he wouldn't have been able to become the manager of the sales office. He could tell that Mr. Lai wasn't Mr. Lin's friend. It was obvious that he was trying to curry favor with Mr. Lin. A discount of 250,000? How was that a discount? It was simply a huge loss. But Manager Wang didn't show it on his face. He was prepared to give Mrs. Tang some more benefits. Mrs. Tang knew that her luck wasn't good. She didn't think that she would win anything in this kind of lucky draw. But the introduction was very good. She had a 100% chance of winning. That Shaoli got 3 appliances. How could she lose? If she could get a microwave or a water heater, she would save a lot of money. Mrs. Tang couldn't help but ask, Manager Wong, that person got 3 times. Can I get 3 times too? If it was someone else, Manager Wong would look down on them. He already gave you a discount of 250,000. Why do you care about these small prizes? But Manager Wong was looking for a chance to please Mrs. Tang for Fatty Lai. How could he not agree? He smiled, Auntie. You can go and get 3 times too. Good, good. Mrs. Tang beamed with joy. Tang Yun looked at her mother helplessly. When her mother walked away, she turned to Linny and whispered, Thank you. What are you thanking me for? Linny smiled. You know the answer. Tang Yun himphed and ignored Lin Yi. Linny was embarrassed that Tang Yun saw through him. It seemed that Tang Yun wasn't stupid. The main problem was that Tang Yun knew that Fatty Lai was his follower. It was normal for Tang Yun to be suspicious. Fatty Lai didn't feel embarrassed when Tang Yun saw through him. He walked over with a smile. Boss, sister-in-law, are you satisfied with the house? It's fine as long as you don't lose anything, Linny hinted. I didn't lose anything. I sold it at the cost. I'll buy it for sister-in-law's family when I'm building a house. Fatty Lai smiled. Chapter 737. Hit the jackpot. She knew that she owed Linny too much, and she didn't know how to repay him. That was why she had such thoughts. After all, she was Lin Yi's girlfriend, not his wife. Okay, thank you. Tang Yun thanked Fatty Lai. What are you thanking me for? It's nothing. Besides, if it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't have earned that extra 250,000 yuan. Fatty Lai smiled and shook his head. Auntie's luck is pretty good. Maybe you'll get a big prize. As they were talking, Mrs. Tang came to the lottery table and drew a card. She looked at it and saw that it was an electric water heater. Mrs. Tang was overjoyed. An electric water heater cost 1 to 2,000 yuan, and she got it for free. Not bad. Congratulations, Mrs. Wong, for winning an electric water heater. The MC threw the card back into the lucky draw box, then handed Mrs. Tang a ticket and congratulated her loudly. The lottery cards were used repeatedly, not limited. In other words, everyone had a chance to win the first prize or first prize. However, there was more than one electric water heater card, and there was only one special and first prize card. But even so, it also aroused the enthusiasm of those buyers. Everyone had a chance, and it was not like there would be no chance after being selected. So many customers who had bought a house were there, waiting for the arrival of the god of luck. Mrs. Tang pulled out another card. On it was an induction cooker. Although it wasn't worth much, only about 1 or 200 yuan, Mrs. Tang wasn't discouraged. Instead, she was happy. Who would complain about having too much free stuff? Mrs. Tang continued to draw, and no one suspected anything. After all, there were people who bought multiple houses, garages, and parking lots. They all had a chance to draw. The MC congratulated Mrs. Tang and gave her another voucher. Mother Tang was a little nervous when it came to her last lucky draw. She didn't dare to take it out. Deep down, she wanted to win the grand prize or first prize. Even though the chances were slim, who wouldn't want to win the grand prize? Plus, if she won the special prize, she'd be able to save on the renovation and extra money. It was a lot of money, at least 100,000 yuan. However, there were still people waiting to draw the lottery. He couldn't possibly not draw it, right? Mrs. Tang gritted her teeth and pulled out a voucher. She didn't dare to look at it. She glanced at it from the corner of her eyes. It was an electric kettle. Mrs. Tang was greatly disappointed, and her expression changed. What a close shave, what a close shave. However, before Mrs. Tang could hand over the ticket to the MC, Manager Wong snatched it from her. He looked at it and exclaimed, "Oh my God, the special prize." The first grand prize of the day had been decided. Congratulations, Ms. Wong. After that, Manager Wong threw the lottery ticket back into the lottery box. Then, he shook the box deliberately as if he was afraid that someone would find it. Mrs. Tang's mind went blank. Grand prize? How was that possible? He clearly saw the words electric kettle written on it. It had nothing to do with the grand prize. How did it become the grand prize? I didn't see it clearly. Did Manager Wong also not see it clearly? He didn't even wait for me to confirm it and threw the ticket back into the lottery box. What was going on? Mrs. Tang stood on the stage with a frozen expression. It was as if she had won the grand prize. The customers didn't suspect anything. They all thought that Mrs. Tang's luck was too good. Did she win the grand prize just like that? The MC was also slightly stunned, but since it was announced by Manager Wang himself, he naturally wouldn't say much. He also congratulated him happily. Congratulations, you have given us a good omen. You won the first special prize. The first and second prizes were announced, but the grand prize hasn't been announced yet. I didn't expect that the winner would be you. Mrs. Tang didn't know what to do. However, she didn't want to say it out loud. She saved a lot of money just like that. Although Mrs. Tang was confused, she nodded cooperatively. I didn't expect that I would win the grand prize. I'm so lucky. Haha, Mrs. Wang, this is your ticket. Keep it well. You can go and handle the renovation procedures later. Let our company know what you think, and we can start the construction, the MC said with a smile. Okay. Mrs. Tang happily took the ticket. On the other hand, Manager Wang accompanied Mrs. Tang to receive the award. No one suspected anything. After all, the previous winners of the first and second prizes had also been personally attended by Manager Wang. Of course, the first and second prizes were real, but the grand prize was fake. However, there was no limit to the number of grand prizes. No one would suspect that the sales office would fake it. So what if it was fake? They still had a chance to win the grand prize. Tang Yun, who was below the stage, was also shocked. Her mother won the grand prize? Was it real? Tang Yun looked at her mother's expression and began to doubt it. Other people might not understand her mother, but she knew her mother. Was this her mother's expression after winning the prize? It was an expression of disappointment that she didn't win. Of course, some people would be happy when they won the prize. But Tang Yun knew that her mother wouldn't be like that. She remembered her mother's happy expression when she won the 3 million yesterday. Tang Yun was sure that her mother didn't win the prize. Then the grand prize. Tang Yun couldn't help but look at Fatty Lai. Fatty Lai seemed to know nothing and was talking to Linny about the medical company. Tang Yun sighed. It was hard on Lin Yi. He thought of so many ways to help her family, just so that she wouldn't be in a difficult position. She was useless. If she was like Ming Yao and the others, Linny wouldn't need to do so much. From the looks of it, Linny and Miss were quite compatible. Her appearance might have been a mistake, but the mistake had already happened. Tang Yun felt that she couldn't get out of it. She didn't want to leave Lin Yi, but what should she do? As Tang Yun was thinking, her mother came back. This time, she was very happy. Your mother won the prize too. I won the grand prize. Fatty Lai nodded approvingly at Manager Wang. It seemed like Manager Wang had a good eye. Manager Wang saw the praise in Fatty Lai's eyes and smiled. It seemed like he didn't do anything wrong. Chapter 738. A slip of the tongue. Manager Wang heard that Mrs. Tang's request was simple and easy to fulfill. He'd just have to ask the design company to design the best modern style. Auntie, how is it? Are you satisfied with the house? Fatty Lai asked when he saw Mrs. Tang. Satisfied. Lai, you're a good friend of Lin Yi's. Mrs. Tang praised. Haha, Auntie, I'm flattered. Fatty Lai laughed. It's almost lunchtime. I'll treat everyone to lunch. Manager Wang was even more shocked. Boss Lai had lowered the price by so much and helped so much. It was fine if Lin Yi didn't treat him, but he wanted to do it himself? It seemed like these people weren't simple at all. How can I do that? I should be the one treating you. Mrs. Tang was stingy, but she knew that Fatty Lai had helped her a lot today. I have something to ask you as well? Mrs. Tang quickly said. Sure, let's find a restaurant nearby. Fatty Lai nodded. The four of them walked out of the sales office together. Mother Tang carefully put away the contract. This was close to $1 million. It was the first time in her life that she had spent so much money. Her heart was filled with excitement, but at the same time, she felt a little unreal. Everything felt surreal. You want to ride in my car? Fatty Lai drove an Audi Q7 today. No need. I drove here too. Linny pointed at his broken van. Mrs. Tang actually wanted to ride in Fatty Lai's luxurious car, but she gave up after hearing what Linny said. She was still a little envious, though. Fatty Lai didn't mind and got into Lin Yi's broken van. Sitting in the back with Mrs. Tang, leaving the front passenger seat for Tang Yun. Linny drove away and asked, "Where are we going to eat?" "Here?" Fatty Lai found a restaurant that looked decent. It wasn't practical to go too far at this time. Linny glanced at the entrance of the restaurant and saw that the BMW that he had stepped on before was also parked there. However, Linny didn't care. It couldn't be that Linny wouldn't come to eat just because he was there, right? Moreover, Linny was not afraid of him at all. Fatty Lai and Lin Yi walked into the restaurant together. Fatty Lai didn't pay attention to the bald CEO Wu and his sweetheart, Shaoli. After all, they were just two small fry. Fatty Lai didn't pay attention to them at all. Mrs. Tang, on the other hand, was too engrossed in her happiness to notice the situation. Tang Yin, on the other hand, noticed Baldy Wu and his sweetheart sitting on the left side of the dining hall. "Linny, that boss Wu was also eating here? It's not a good idea for us to come here, is it?" Tang Yin was a bit hesitated. After all, they were taking advantage of Lin Yi's 25. It wasn't easy for them to run into each other. "Oh, then I should tell him to get lost, lest he affects my girlfriend's mood." Linny smiled. "Stop it. Why are you so bossy?" Tang Yin was very shy. "Heh, then let's not care about him." Linny shook his head. Fatty Lai asked the waiter for a private room. In fact, there was no need for 4 people to have a private room, but Fatty Lai felt that it was better to treat people formally. After entering the private room and sitting down, since Fatty Lai was treating, he first ordered a few signature dishes before passing the menu to Mrs. Tang and Tang Yin. "Auntie, sister-in-law, Miss Tang, what would you like to eat?" Fatty Lai's words slipped, but fortunately, he reacted quickly. Seeing that Mrs. Tang didn't seem to notice, he let out a sigh of relief. "Are these dishes enough? There are only 4 of us. We can't eat so much, right?" Mrs. Tang looked at the dishes that Fatty Lai ordered. They were all the signature dishes of this restaurant. It was enough. "Yes, these dishes are enough for 4 people, the waiter nodded. Although the restaurant naturally wanted to sell more dishes, they couldn't let people order so they couldn't finish it, right? When it was Tang Yin's turn, she only ordered a few bottles of drinks and didn't add any dishes. Fatty Lai had no choice but to order a dessert before waving the waiter away. And the bald CEO Wu, who was sitting not far away, saw Lin Yi's group and immediately frowned. It's really a small world for enemies. There were a lot of people at the sales office and I couldn't do anything to you. But now you guys come to me? Yeah, CEO Wu, these people are so bad. They made us spend an extra 250,000 yuan. Shaoli was a little distressed. How good would it be if she gave the money to someone else? She didn't think much about it when she bought the house. After all, it was Boss Wu's money at that time. But now that the house was hers, Shaoli also felt that the extra money she spent was her own. If I don't find someone to teach them a lesson, I won't be able to calm down. CEO Wu was actually thinking that he would find someone to beat up Lin Yi and force him to leave Tang Yin. At that time, he would appear forcefully and gain the favor of Tang Yin's family. Then, he wouldn't be far from getting the beauty. Yeah, CEO Wu, aren't you under Sihua Bro's protection? Why don't you find Sihua Bro? Shaoli suggested. That's what I'm planning to do. CEO Wu nodded. His taxi company was under the name of Sihua's company, and he paid Sihua a huge sum of money every month. How else would he be able to dominate the taxi industry in Songshan and become the leader of the taxi industry? Because he had Sihua backing him, the other taxi companies didn't dare to say anything. Who dared to provoke Sihua? CEO Wu dialed Sihua's number. Sihua had just finished the silver needle removal surgery with his brother. This surgery left Li Delay crippled. After the silver needles were removed, there were holes all over his body. He looked like a sieve, and every wound was as big as a rice bowl. It was shocking, but in order to survive, he had to do this. Otherwise, if Lin Yi's pure energy exploded out, he wouldn't be able to live. Bro, how am I going to live in the future? There's even a hole in my dick. I'm so pitiful. Li Delay was in so much pain that he wanted to die after the anesthesia wore off. All right, stop howling. It's your fault for messing with Lin Yi. Sihua glared at Li Delay. Even Master Bing doesn't know how to deal with Lin Yi. What can you do? But I don't want to give up. I want revenge. I want to tear Lin Yi into pieces. Li Delay clenched his teeth in pain. Just wait for Master Bing to avenge you. Don't even think about it. How could Sihua not hate Lin Yi? He hated Lin Yi to the bone. But what could he do even if he hated him to the bone? He couldn't do anything to Lin Yi and was afraid of him. Chapter 739. Give me back my silver needly delay nodded. He could only wait for Master Bing to take revenge for him. Lin Yi was too strong. Even his brother wasn't his match. Sihua comfortedly delay and received a call from Baldy Wu when he left the ward. Hello? Old Wu, what's up? Sihua asked. Sihua bro, I was bullied. There was a dent in my car, and when I mentioned your name, the guy didn't care at all. He asked me what Sihua bro was. CEO Wu started making up stories in order to get Sihua to stand up for him. In this Songshan city, there's someone who doesn't care about my name? Sihua was already filled with rage, and Baldy Wu's words only served to enrage him further. Who are they? I don't know. I brought Xiaoli to buy a house today and met them at the sales office. They seem to have some relationship with the manager there, so I gave them a discount. CEO Wu said, Buy a house? All right. I'll bring my men over now. Sihua nodded. Who else could they be if they went to buy a house himself? Now that he was pissed, it was good to find someone to vent his anger on. CEO Wu was overjoyed. He felt that the money he gave to Sihua all these years wasn't in vain. Sihua really helped him when he was in trouble. Sihua actually valued Baldy Wu quite a lot. Although Baldy Wu always used Sihua's name to do things outside, Baldy Wu really did bring back a lot of money every year. 5 million a year as tribute was considered a huge amount for Sihua's businesses. As a result, Sihua couldn't just leave Baldy Wu in the lurch. He brought his men over personally to show that he was taking care of Baldy Wu, so that he would be able to give him more money when the tribute came at the end of the year. It was troubled times now, and Sihua was extremely poor. Building Qibing's skyscraper was already enough for him, and now he had to build another one. He used up all his savings, so of course he wanted to get more money. It wasn't long before Sihua brought his men over. CEO was overjoyed. Sihua bro here. Sihua nodded as he walked over with his men. I say, Old Wu, you're someone with a lot of reputation. Why are you eating in the main hall? It's just 2 people. It's just a casual meal. There's no need to put on a show. Baldy CEO Wu said quickly. All right, where are the people you mentioned? Take me there. I still have other things to deal with. Sihua felt that it would be beneath his status to deal with this kind of thing personally, but he didn't have anyone else he could use. Zhang Long and Liao were both killed by Lin Yi, and Zhong Fabai was in the hospital right now. He really didn't have anyone else he could use, so he had no choice but to deal with it himself. But this made Wu very touched. Sihua bro, it's in that room over there. I'm honored that you came in person. Don't worry, I'll increase the management fee by 10% this year. Well said. Well said. Sihua thought to himself. It seems like you're quite smart. It's not a waste for me to come in person. Sihua brought Su Jiaonong and a few of his underlings to the front of the room. The waiters of the restaurant also saw this scene, but at this moment, they didn't dare to come forward. After all, Sihua's group didn't look like they came with good intentions, especially those underlings. They were all burly men with tattoos all over their bodies. Kick the door. Sihua said faintly. Okay. CEO Wu was emboldened this time. With Sihua by his side, what was there for him to be afraid of? So, with a bang, he kicked the door of the room. This kick, he used all his strength. But who knew that the door of this restaurant wasn't sturdy at all, and it didn't even take a kick. It wasn't even locked. The kick was too strong, and he fell directly into the room. With a plop sound, he laid on the ground, prostrating himself. Sihua was so angry that his teeth itched. He really couldn't be helped. They were here to cause trouble, and you actually kowtowed the moment you entered the room. What are you doing? Sihua had no choice but to lift his leg and enter the room. He couldn't show any weakness. CEO Wu's sudden appearance made Lin Yi and the others stunned. Was there something wrong with this person? As for Sihua, when he entered the room, he wanted to act cool and shout, but when he saw Lin Yi in the room, he suddenly froze. CEO Wu naturally didn't see Sihua's expression clearly. He was still like a dog eating mud. With great difficulty, He climbed up from the ground and pointed at Linny and shouted, "Sihua bro, it's this kid. He's the one who kicked my car. He didn't even put you in his eyes." Sihua's back was covered in cold sweat. Lin-Yi? Why was he so unlucky? He was helping his underlings, and he still had to meet Lin-Yi? He didn't put me in his eyes, did he? Not only did he not put me in his eyes, he also didn't put Master Bing in his eyes. But what could he do to him? Sihua was a little embarrassed. He didn't know what to say. He wanted to say that they came to the wrong room and leave with his underlings. But this CEO will reveal the truth. He had no way to smooth things over. Lin-Yi. Sihua was a little embarrassed. "Sihua bro, are you here to give me the silver needles?" Lin-Yi looked at Sihua and said faintly, "Your brother's silver needles have been removed, right? Give them back to me quickly, they're quite expensive." Sihua's expression instantly became very interesting. The silver needles still had to be returned? Wasn't this too much? How much was a box of silver needles worth? But he really didn't dare to explode. Lin-Yi's strength was there for all to see, and Lin-Yi was a violent maniac who wasn't afraid of anything. He even dared to hit Master Bing, let alone Sihua. Sihua didn't want to be crippled by Lin-Yi. He could only force a smile and said, "It's just a box of silver needles. Why do you care?" "Oh, you like silver needles? Do you want me to give you a few more?" Lin-Yi said as he took out the box of silver needles from his pocket. Sihua looked at the box of silver needles, and his face turned ashen. What the fuck? What was the meaning of this? Did Lin-Yi want to put a few more silver needles on his body? Sihua couldn't take that. He said hurriedly, "I don't like it, I don't like it. I'll go get the needles now and send them to you immediately." Sihua didn't dare to say anything else, and he turned around and left the room. Jiaonong and the others who came with Sihua saw that he was leaving, and quickly left as well. Chapter 740. Sent back. CEO Wu was someone who had seen the world. He could tell that the situation wasn't looking good. Ever since Sihua saw the person in the room, he didn't plan to help him at all. And from the looks of it, Sihua was afraid of the person in the room. That was why he left with his tail between his legs. "I'm sorry, I went to the wrong room. This meal is on me. It's my treat." CEO Wu wasn't an idiot. He knew that if he didn't understand the situation, he would only be waiting for death. Even Sihua couldn't afford to offend this person. How could he, CEO Wu, afford to offend this person? "All right, hurry up and leave. Don't disturb our meal." Mrs. Tang waved her hand and signaled that Baldy Wu could leave. She felt great in her heart. "You don't like it? You found someone? So what? My son-in-law would scare them away. So what if it was Sihua?" Although he was a famous person in Songshan and was a legend in Mrs. Tang's eyes, it seemed that he was just a coward. Mrs. Tang thought that she would become a famous person in Songshan in the future. Even Sihua wouldn't be her opponent. CEO Wu quickly turned around and left. After leaving the room, he returned to his seat with a face full of dirt. "CEO Wu, what happened just now? Why did Sihua bro leave so quickly?" Shaoli didn't follow him and didn't understand the situation. "Don't mention it. We're unlucky this time. We met a big shot. Even Sihua bro doesn't dare to offend him. Just admit it." CEO Wu knew that he couldn't handle it anymore. He didn't force himself. "Waiter." The waiter quickly came over. They also saw the big commotion caused by the bald President Wu previously. However, since the parties involved didn't say anything, they wouldn't meddle too much. "Sir, how may I help you?" the waiter quickly asked. "The bill for that room is on me." CEO Wu pointed at Lin-Yi's room and said to the waiter. The waiter was startled. It was obvious that CEO Wu went to that room to cause trouble. Why was he paying the bill now? However, the specifics had nothing to do with him. So after being stunned for a moment, he quickly nodded and said, "Yes, sir." After the waiter left, CEO Wu heaved a sigh of relief. F***CK. If I knew that the person in that private room was so awesome, I wouldn't have provoked him. Isn't this just looking for trouble? What right did they have to provoke someone that even Sihua couldn't afford to offend? But at this moment, he was a little afraid. "Boss Wu, will they take revenge on us?" "I don't think so. We're just small fries. If he's looking for someone, He'd be looking for Tsihua. He doesn't even know who we are. Baldy Wu was rather optimistic. I think we should hurry up and leave. Don't stay here. What if they come out later and see us still here? What if they come to trouble us? Shaoli was still a little worried. Who's going to pay for them if we leave? Baldy CEO Wu said, I was very sincere just now. They didn't make things difficult for me. Clearly, they don't care about me at all. So don't be afraid. Let's continue eating. Shaoli couldn't eat anymore. She took a few sips of her drink and sat at her seat, waiting for Lin Yi and the others to finish eating. CEO Wu did the same, sitting on pins and needles, waiting for Lin Yi and the others to finish eating. Sihua got in the car and went straight to the hospital. Naturally, Su Jianong knew who Lin Yi was. He also knew that it was because of him that Sihua and Master Bing were so angry. Sihua bro, are we really going to get the needles for him? Wouldn't that make us look weak? Su Jianong didn't think that Sihua would really go for the needles. What if we don't? Before we think of a way to deal with this kid, we can only use a gentle and pacifying strategy. Don't provoke him. Sihua sighed. He felt very wronged. Ever since he relied on House Zhao and made his fortune in Songshan, he had never felt so wronged before. But he didn't have a choice now. The masters around him were either killed or injured by Lin Yi. His Yaowang wasn't good enough, and his poison was neutralized. How was he supposed to fight Lin Yi? Su Jianong thought about it and agreed. What could he do if he wasn't weak? If he couldn't win, he could only be bullied. Sihua asked Su Jianong to get the needles from the hospital and return to the restaurant. CEO Wu was waiting for Lin Yi to finish his dinner so he could pay the bill. But before Lin Yi finished his dinner, Sihua came again. CEO Wu was overjoyed when he saw Sihua. Sihua wouldn't be here for revenge, would he? But upon closer inspection, it didn't seem to be the case at all. This time, only Sihua and Su Jianong entered the restaurant. The lackeys from before were all gone. CEO Wu quickly stood up to greet Sihua, but Sihua waved at him impatiently. Sihua came to Lin Yi's room and knocked on the door carefully. After getting permission, he entered. Lin Yi, I've brought the needles. Sihua gritted his teeth as he placed the needles on the table. Oh, thank you. You can leave now. Lin Yi nodded. Oh, right. Thank you for the 3 million yesterday. My girlfriend's family bought a big house. You're welcome. Sihua felt his face burning. He was considered a big shot, but he was treated like a clown. Sihua didn't even know how he walked out of the restaurant. It was too embarrassing. It was too embarrassing. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have come. Not only did he not do anything to Lin Yi, but he was also humiliated by Lin Yi. If he didn't take revenge, he wouldn't be able to eat or sleep in peace. Sihua decided to go back and discuss with Master Bing how to take revenge on Lin Yi. After returning to the floating cloud bar, Sihua didn't hide anything. He told Master Bing everything that happened today. It wasn't a matter of shame anymore. He had lost all his face in this period of time. This Lin Yi is really arrogant. Qibing frowned after hearing Sihua's words. I came to Songshan to start a business. With Lin Yi around, everything is going to be difficult. Until now, I haven't earned a single cent, but I've lost quite a lot. Oh right, how's the Qibing skyscraper? Is it completed? It's completed. It's in the finishing stage. I found the most professional construction team in the country. This speed is the fastest, Sihua said. Chapter 741. Were you kissing? Isn't it because of Lin Yi's matter that we've stopped? Why don't we continue tomorrow? Sihua asked. Yes, continue working. Flatten that piece of land. Qibing nodded. Master Bing, according to our plans, there's an orphanage right next to the slums. Do you think we should get the land for the orphanage? The slums weren't square, but an L shape. One of the pieces of land was the orphanage. At first, Sihua didn't have any intentions towards the orphanage, but now that he'd lost 100 million on the HQ building and 3 million to Lin Yi, he'd lost a lot of money. It was going to be hard to make up for the losses with just the slums. Orphanage. Master Bing thought about it. What's the background? Nothing much. It's just a private charity orphanage. The land was donated for free. Sihua knew more about this. All right, go talk to someone and get it. We need to build a high-end modern community. We need to recoup our losses before, or I won't be able to explain it to my dad. Qibing didn't think much of it when he heard that it was a private orphanage. What background could it possibly have? Master Bing, are we still going to hold the completion ceremony for the group's skyscraper this time? Sihua asked as he remembered the completion ceremony from the last time. What the hell? Didn't we embarrass ourselves enough last time? Master Bing glared at Sihua. Speaking of this, Master Bing was furious. You want me to attend the completion ceremony in a wheelchair? This Lin Yi is like a ticking time bomb, lying in ambush on the road. Who knows when he'll explode? If we don't get rid of him, we won't be able to live in peace. But this guy doesn't seem to be injured at all. Uncle Zhu and Yao Wang are no match for him. What can we do? Sihua was out of ideas, huh? A ticking time bomb? Sihua's eyes lit up after hearing Master Bing's words. What's wrong with a ticking time bomb? Do you have any good ideas? Master Bing saw Sihua's expression and asked quickly, There's an old saying that no matter how good your martial arts are, you're still afraid of guns and cannons. Why do we have to fight him head-on? Why don't we use a little strategy? Sihua suggested. You mean, we should use firearms against him? Master Bing paused. That time bomb thing you mentioned reminded me of something. We can install a time bomb in his car. Won't he die the moment he starts driving? Sihua finally thought of a way to deal with Lin Yi. Install a time bomb in his car? That's a good idea, but isn't this opportunity hard to come by? Master Bing found Sihua's suggestion to be quite a good one. At the very least, he wouldn't have to fight Lin Yi head-on. Who knew if Lin Yi had recovered his strength? How about this? Who cares if he has recovered his strength or not? I'll just blow him up with a bomb. Let's see if he can still be so arrogant then. I have an idea, Sihua pondered and said, but we might need to spend some money. Spending money doesn't matter. As long as we can kill Lin Yi, what's the point of spending money? Once Lin Yi is dead, we'll be able to earn back the money we spend now. Qibing waved his hand nonchalantly. That'll be easy, Sihua said. When the time comes, we can do this and this. Sihua told him his plan. After listening, Master Bing pondered for a while and nodded. All right, let's do that. Get someone to arrange this immediately. The faster the better. I don't want Lin Yi to live in this world for even a second longer. Don't worry, Master Bing. Leave this to me. I have my ways. Sihua nodded. After Lin Yi and the others finished their meal, Fatty Lai wanted to pay the bill but found out that CEO Wu had already done so. Fatty Lai didn't reject it anymore. He knew that this was Lin Yi's capability, so he promised to treat him next time. He didn't want to disturb Lin Yi anymore, so he took a taxi and left. Lin Yi drove Mrs. Tang back to the hospital. Mrs. Tang had just bought a house, so naturally, she needed to discuss the layout with Tang Juqing. Lin Yi and Tang Yun, on the other hand, went back to school. Thank you for today, Tang Yun said to Lin Yi when she got off the car. There's no need to thank me, Lin Yi smiled. You still owe me a kiss, right? When will you honor it? Tang Yun blushed immediately. She remembered that she had promised him before. She didn't honor it? She wanted to reject it, but she suddenly remembered that Yu Shu said that she and Meng Yao had kissed Lin Yi before. Tang Yun was a little angry. She was Lin Yi's girlfriend. She hadn't even kissed him yet, but someone else got it first? So, Tang Yun looked around nervously. There seemed to be no one around. She quickly kissed Lin Yi's cheek and said in a panic, Okay, I'm giving it back to you. This doesn't count as a kiss, right? Lin Yi found it funny. Why not? If I say it counts, then it counts. It wasn't easy for Tang Yun to do this. Okay, then it counts. Lin Yi touched the cheek that Tang Yun kissed. It felt good? But why did it feel similar to when Shu kissed him? Of course, Lin Yi didn't dare to say this out loud. If he did, Tang Yun would kick him to death. The two of them didn't know what to do next, but they heard a scream. Wow, I was wondering why you two were skipping class. So, you were hiding here and kissing? Lu Xinwen ran over while panting. She saw Lin Yi's car from afar. She called out to Lin Yi, but he didn't hear her. So, Lu Xinwen chased after him all the way to the food street behind the school. Then, she saw Tang Yun kissing Lin Yi. So, Lu Xinwen quickly ran over as if she saw the big news. Xinwen, what are you talking about? We didn't kiss. Tang Yun obviously wouldn't admit what she did. Even Lu Xinwen wouldn't admit it. Otherwise, if Lu Xinwen knew, everyone would know. Did I see it wrong? I clearly saw you kissing Lin Yi. Lu Xinwen wasn't that gullible. We were whispering. Tang Yun glared at Lu Xinwen. You're making a fuss. Why aren't you in the classroom? What are you doing here? Chapter 742. Group Photo. Oh, we want to buy a house this morning, Tang Yun said. Her heart was filled with sweetness when she talked about buying a house. In the past, she didn't even know if she could survive if something like this happened to her family, not to mention buying a house. Now, her family was probably the one with the best situation in the slums. While everyone was waiting for their houses to be demolished, her family was already living in a building. Lu Xinwen was envious. Yun, you're so lucky. We're waiting for our houses to be demolished, and we don't know when we'll get the compensation. The developer doesn't know how much and how much the compensation will be. It's making everyone anxious all day long. Isn't it because of my father's broken leg? Tang Yun sighed. She didn't know if it was because of her father's broken leg or because she met Lin Yi. Tang Yun saw the drastic changes in her family and remembered it in her heart. It was all Lin Yi's credit, so Tang Yun would sometimes treat Lin Yi with gratitude. If someone pays me 3 million, I'd rather have both my legs broken. Xinwen was a little envious of Tang Yun. Although her words were a little harsh, it was the truth. The residents of Shantytown were basically the toiling masses at the bottom of society. Who would live here if they were rich? They were either laid-off workers or jobless groups. Everyone relied on small businesses and hard labor to maintain their family's food and clothing. Just like Lu Xinwen's parents, they were also working for others. Their monthly income was just enough to maintain their family's livelihood. The entire family had almost no savings at all, not to mention buying a house. Even renting a house after losing it would be difficult to make ends meet. I hope that the developer has some conscience and can compensate us a sum of money. Then, we can ask Lin Yi to help us buy a special price house in a bad location. Tang Yun looked at Lin Yi. She didn't care about other people, but Lu Xinwen and Fawn were her childhood friends. She couldn't just watch them go down the drain and not do anything about it. But Tang Yun didn't want to make things difficult for Lin Yi. She only asked Lin Yi to help them buy a special price house with a slightly worse location. It would be sold at a special price. Lin Yi should be able to get it with his connections, right? Of course, no problem. Lin Yi and Lu Xinwen were familiar with each other. A house with a slightly worse location should be much cheaper. Thank you so much. Lu Xinwen heard Lin Yi's words and felt touched. She felt that Lin Yi was a righteous person. Tang Yun's heart was not in vain. If it was Kong Ming, he wouldn't have done this. As for the layout and location, Lu Xinwen didn't really care. No matter how bad it was still a building. It was better than the slums, right? The three returned to school together. Lin Yi and Tang Yun parted at the door of Class 9. Lin Yi entered his own class. There weren't many people in the classroom. Clearly, there weren't many people coming to school today. It was lunch break, so there were even fewer people. The Miss and Yushu were both there. They were reading in their seats. Seeing Lin Yi enter, the Miss raised her head and looked at Lin Yi before returning her gaze back to her book. Yushu wanted to call Lin Yi, but she was afraid that Mingyao wouldn't want it. She opened her mouth, but closed it again and continued reading. Lin Yi shook his head and went back to his seat. Kong Xiaobo wasn't here. The kid probably went to a company fun today. Lin Yi sat in his seat and had nothing to do. Yao, Shield Bro is back. Should we ask him to take a photo with us? Yushu took out the digital camera from her bag. The 12th year of high school was about to end. Since there weren't any classes today, Mingyao and Yushu brought their camera and took some photos in the school. They wanted to record the last part of their high school life. Why? Mingyao was a little tempted, but she asked back. Shield Bro is leaving after graduation. Yushu's voice was a little disappointed. Yao, you're right. Shield Bro can't stay with us forever. We'll part ways one day. Yushu's words made Mengyao's heart tighten. Lin Yi was leaving? Yeah, he had to leave eventually. What reason did he have to stay after high school was over? In his father's company, the people who were hostile to him were all chased away by Lin Yi. His troublesome pursuers, Zhong Pingliang and Jiang Wen, were all hospitalized with their kidneys cut out. Lin Yi's mission was considered a success. Perhaps after graduating from high school, Lin Yi wouldn't stay in the villa anymore when she and Shu went to college. What would he do? Rent a house with Tang Yun? The miss felt complicated at the thought of this possibility. She was supposed to live with Shu and her, but now he was living with Tang Yun. Should she give up her happiness? But what could she do if she didn't? Lin Yi wasn't anyone to her. What right did he have to stay by her side? Just because of the 30,000 yuan? Mingyao found it funny. Lin Yi didn't even care about 3 million. What was 30,000 to him? Then let's keep it as a souvenir. Mingyao sighed. Text him. Yushu took out her phone and quickly sent a message to Lin Yi. Lin Yi was bored when his phone vibrated. It was a message from Yushu. Go to the field and take a photo for me and Yao Yao? Lin Yi paused. The miss had never exposed their relationship in school before. So what was up with her today? Was it Shu's idea? Lin Yi didn't reply. He stood up and walked out of the classroom. He believed that Yushu would understand what he meant. As expected, not long after Lin Yi walked out, the miss and Yushu followed him out. In the hallway, Yushu called out to Lin Yi. Shield bro. Mingyao hesitated. She wanted to say something, but after thinking about it, a lot of people knew about her relationship with Lin Yi. What was there to care about? Besides, she had already announced to Tang Yun that she was going to fight for Lin Yi. Now that she was hiding it, it was as if she was afraid of her. With that thought, the miss changed her attitude towards Lin Yi. She raised her head and pulled Yushu. Shu, let's take a photo in the hallway. We can get our class sign here. Chapter 743. You'll take pictures for us. Lin Yi took the camera and nodded. The classrooms of 12th Class 5 and 12th Class 9 weren't too far away from each other. Yushu's shield bro was a little out of place, and Tang Yun was sitting by the window in the hallway. The windows were always open in the summer, so she heard it as well. She was very sensitive to Yushu's unique way of addressing Lin Yi. She raised her head and saw Lin Yi taking pictures of Mingyao and Yushu. Tang Yun frowned. She couldn't figure out whether or not Mingyao and Yushu liked Lin Yi or not. Or did one of them like Lin Yi or not? Or maybe they didn't like him. Xinwen heard Yushu's voice as well. She popped her head out of the classroom and saw Lin Yi taking pictures of Mingyao and Yushu. She quickly texted Tang Yun. Tang Yun was a little annoyed when she received Xinwen's message. She replied with "I know" and put her phone back into her pocket. There were only a few more months until the college entrance exams. She had to study hard. It was good to be with Lin Yi, but she couldn't let it affect her studies. If she couldn't get into college, the gap between her and Lin Yi would be even bigger. Tang Yun understood this very well. Xinwen saw that Tang Yun didn't move after replying. She waited for a while, but there was still no movement. She couldn't help but leave the classroom to look for Tang Yun. Mingyao and Yushu saw Xinwen as well, but Lin Yi couldn't see her because his back was facing them. Yao Yao sis, someone's snitching. Yushu said. Don't say that, it's not snitching, Mingyao said, but she was a little nervous. Would Tang Yun come over? But so what if she did? She didn't do anything shameful. Mingyao calmed down at the thought. Xinwen came to Tang Yun's window. Tang Yun didn't expect Xinwen to come looking for her personally. She was a little annoyed. What did it have to do with them? Wouldn't it be more awkward if she got involved? As if they were spying on Lin Yi? Yun, you're not going to pretend that you didn't see me, are you? Xinwen asked as she leaned on the windowsill. What are you doing? I want to study. Tang Yun waved the exercise book in her hand. Shall we go out for a walk? Lu Xinwen asked. What for? Tang Yun asked after some hesitation. She knew what Xinwen wanted her to do. It was to find Lin Yi. Since they're taking pictures, let's take some too. We're graduating soon, let's take some as a souvenir, Lu Xinwen said. No, I don't think it's a good idea. Tang Yun shook her head. What's wrong with that? After Lu Xinwen finished, she called Lin Yi. Lin Yi. With Lin Yi's sharp senses, how could he not know that Lu Xinwen would have found Tang Yun? Although Lin Yi had been taking pictures of Mingyao and Yushu, he was still paying attention to what was happening over there. Hearing Lu Xinwen call him, Lin Yi knew that something was up again. He turned around with a smile. Huh? What's up? Tang Yun said that she hasn't taken a picture with you yet. Lu Xinwen said. When did I say that? Don't talk nonsense. Tang Yun was embarrassed. How could Lu Xinwen talk nonsense? Then let's take a picture together? The miss had spoken. At this time, Meng Yao felt that there was no need for her to be petty. It was just a picture, so what if Tang Yun came? If she didn't let Tang Yun come, it would make her seem petty. She was the miss. She had to fight and not fight. If she fussed over everything, she would be an unreasonable shrew. Let's go, Yun Yun. If we start now, I don't believe that you can learn it. Lu Xinwen looked at the exercise book in Tang Yun's hands. It seemed to be the same handwriting as before. Tang Yun hadn't touched it at all. She was using a carbon pen before, but now she was using a blue ballpoint pen. Tang Yun was dragged out of the classroom by Lu Xinwen. Tang Yun didn't hesitate anymore. Indeed, she hadn't taken a picture with Lin Yi before. The two met in Songshan's first school. If they didn't take a picture together, it would be a pity. Maybe she would regret not keeping a piece of her memory. Lin Yi, I'll take a picture for you too. Lu Xinwen took the camera from Lin Yi's hand. I'm not done yet. Yushu wasn't happy, but she thought about it and ran to Lin Yi's side. Tang Yun stood on Lin Yi's right and Yushu stood on Lin Yi's left. I haven't taken a picture with Shield Bro yet, right? Tang Yun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She was taking a picture with Lin Yi. What was she doing? Lu Xinwen was pissed as well, but what else could she say if Tang Yun didn't say anything? She took the camera and took a strange picture of the three of them. Yao Yao sis, you come too? Yushu waved at Meng Yao. Meng Yao wanted to go, but she didn't want to. Tang Yun was there. What was she going to do? Meng Yao, let's take a picture together. Are we friends? Can we have a souvenir? Tang Yun saw the miss awkwardness. Since she was generous enough to ask her to take a picture, why couldn't she do the same? Meng Yao hesitated and walked over. She thought about it and stood next to Yushu. Lu Xinwen pressed the shutter, and the picture of the four of them came out. After taking the picture, Yushu wanted to join in the fun, but Meng Yao pulled her to the side, not letting her join in. She wanted to give Lin Yi and Tang Yun a chance to take a picture alone. Tang Yun and Lu Xinwen could take pictures with their phones, but the function was much worse than a digital camera. Their family's financial situation didn't allow them to buy a digital camera. Tang Yun's family had some money now, but they didn't have the time to buy one. Or maybe Tang Yun didn't want to buy one. So, after Lin Yi and Tang Yun took a picture together, Lu Xinwen took a picture with Tang Yun. In the end, Yushu suggested that the five of them take a picture together. It wasn't easy for the five of them to get to know each other. Meng Yao and Yushu knew Lu Xinwen that night at Fatty Lai's house. But the five of them needed someone to take the picture, right? Although the camera had a selfie function, there wasn't a place to fix it. Just when they were thinking about what to do, they saw Zhou Ruoming walking over with a basketball. The reason he came to school every day was to hang out with his lackeys, eat, drink, play basketball, and act cool. Of course, the number of times he acted cool had decreased recently. The reason was simple. Lin Yi was too fierce. He didn't want to offend him, so Zhou Ruoming could only play basketball in peace. Hey, classmate, take a picture of us. Lu Xinwen didn't see clearly that it was Zhou Ruoming. She just grabbed a random person to take a picture. Chapter 744. The rise of House Zhanghe had just started to behave himself in school, and now someone was asking him to take a picture? Ruoming was about to open his mouth to curse when he raised his head to see Lin Yi and Tang Yun beside Xinwen, as well as the miss and Yushu on the other side. He shut his mouth with a gah, thankful that he'd opened his mouth a little slower, otherwise he'd be in trouble. Other than Xinwen, he couldn't afford to offend any of these people. Fuck, he was so unlucky, running into so many people after playing basketball. But on the surface, Zhou Ruoming put on a flattering smile. Isn't this boss Lin Yi and sis-in-law Tang Yun? Long time no see, looking for a photographer? I'm a professional. I've been to many private photo gatherings. Private photo? What's that? Tang Yun paused, not knowing what Zhou Ruoming was talking about. Huh. Zhou Ruoming realized that he had said something wrong and felt a little awkward. It's a private photo. Oh, Yao Yao sis, is it a photo of a female celebrity in a dating show not wearing any clothes? Yushu asked, does he want to take nude photos of us? Ugh, no, that's not what I meant. Zhou Ruoming jumped. Taking nude photos of the women beside Lin Yi? Wasn't he looking to die? What I meant was, I'm very good at taking photos. Oh, go ahead then. Yushu didn't say anything else to Zhou Ruoming and stood beside Linyi, waving at Mengyao. Yao sis, you stand on Shield Bros, right? Mengyao didn't bother with Yushu, standing beside her instead. Tang Yun was still standing next to Linyi, and Xinwen was beside her. Zhou Ruoming took a group photo with the 5 of them and ran away with his tail between his legs. Who knew if Yushu would come after him? In the afternoon, most of the students came back. Pengzhan Industries' press conference was over, and all the parents and students knew what had happened. It was a black-hearted businessman who wanted to ruin the school's reputation and poison the cafeteria. As a result, the school had nothing to do with this incident. The police had already arrested the suspect, and the parents let their children go back to school. The homeroom teacher, Miss Liu, came back with a mission. She was one of the few people in the school who knew the inside story. Pin Liang was the culprit, but he was also the victim. It was because of losing a kidney that his mind was twisted. He was laughed at by his classmates, and that was why he went to such extremes. To put it bluntly, he lacked love, warmth, and care. As a result, Miss Liu organized a group of students to visit Pin Liang at the hospital. In fact, other than Yushu and Linyi, who liked to laugh at Pin Liang, the others had more or less received benefits from him, especially when Pin Liang invited them to the beach a while ago. Who would laugh at him? However, it was normal for them to look at him strangely. After all, everyone was curious. They wanted to know what was the difference between a person without a kidney and a normal person. Therefore, before this visit, Teacher Liu held a short class meeting for the whole class. Everyone, our classmate Zhong Pingliang has found a suitable kidney and just had a kidney transplant. He's now in the hospital. As a group, we should pay him a visit. After all, he's a member of our 3rd grade class 5. Miss Liu said, this activity is voluntary. If you want to go to the hospital, get ready and wait at the school gate. The school's bus is already parked there. If you don't want to go, you can study in the classroom. The bus came from the press conference, so they didn't have to wait. They got on the bus and went to the hospital. They were in their 3rd year of high school, so they didn't have much time to interact with each other. They listened to Miss Liu's words and stood up, ready to visit Pin Liang. Let me emphasize one point. You must not look down on Pin Liang. You must give him enough warmth and love. Let him feel the care of the group. Miss Liu reminded, who wants to go through this kind of tragedy? Pin Liang is already pitiful enough. We can't let him be sad. Everyone nodded, thinking back to how they looked at Pin Liang with that weird gaze earlier. They wondered if that had hurt or confused Pin Liang in any way. Mengyao didn't want to visit Pin Liang. It would be better if he died. Why would she care about him? But as the Miss of Pengzhan Industries, the daughter of the school's chairman, she couldn't not go. How would people think of her if she didn't go? Even if she didn't care, she had to think about her father's reputation. She couldn't let people say that Pengzhan's daughter was cold and heartless. She didn't even visit her classmate in the hospital. So, although Mengyao was unwilling, she still stood up with Shu and left the classroom. Linyi didn't care. It was Meng Yao's decision. If the miss went, he would go. If she didn't, why should he go? This was the 2nd time the whole class came to visit Pin Liang. Fabai wasn't surprised when he received the call from Miss Liu. He knew that his plan had worked. His son had successfully deceived the police and the school's sympathy. He had turned the suspect into the victim. Pin Liang, you are getting more and more mature. You did well this time. It's a happy ending. Fabai hung up and praised his son. Your classmate is coming to the hospital to see you. He's on the way. Of course. How can a person grow without setbacks? I was too naive. I was played by Meng Yao and Yushu. Pin Liang nodded. I won't be so stupid in the future. And it's good that you can think it through. Fabai patted Pin Liang's shoulder. You're ready to give up on Meng Yao, right? It's too early to say whether I'll give up or not. But when I soar into the sky, Meng Yao will be my toy. Pin Liang laughed coldly. Since she never liked me and played me like a monkey, I won't let her go so easily. It's good that you have a goal, but don't act rashly. Fabai felt that it wasn't a bad thing to have something to motivate his son. Chapter 745. Whose kidney? Of course. Fabai agreed that his son should maintain a good relationship with Naipeo, 2. Heibao was able to forcefully raise his strength to golden class early phase, and Naipeo should be able to do the same after going through systematic training. He might even be the future hope of House Xiong. Right? How do you feel about your kidney? Do you feel any discomfort? Although your kidney is very compatible, there's no guarantee that there won't be any rejection. It's just pain. Other than pain, I don't feel anything else. Pinliang shook his head. Wounds hurt too. Let's get a doctor to check it in a few days, Fabai said. Fabai said, Jiangwen's kidney trafficking company has been destroyed. I wonder how Linny is doing? Who knows? I hope he's dead. Pinliang really wanted Lin Yi to die. Fabai nodded. He had been staying with Pinliang in the hospital for the past 2 days. He didn't go to Master Bing's place, so he didn't know how Linny was doing. Intermittent footsteps could be heard from the corridor outside the ward. Pinliang's classmates were here to see him. Zhong Fabai and Zhong Pingliang stopped their discussion as well. As expected, a knock came from outside the ward. Fabai stood up to open the door. Mr. Liu, thank you for bringing the whole class to visit Pinliang. Thank you so much. It's Pinliang's fortune to have good teachers and classmates like you, Fabai said gratefully as he knocked on the door. But before he could finish his sentence, his eyes landed on Lin Yi, who was standing beside Meng Yao. Fabai's eyes widened as if he had seen a ghost. Hey, you, Lin Yi. Oh, Uncle Zhong, you were looking for me? Lin Yi shrugged at Fabai. Naturally, he knew why he was surprised. From Fabai's perspective, he should be lying in the hospital like his son. It would be weird if Fabai didn't have this expression when he appeared here. You, why are you here? Fabai lost his composure. He was a man of authority, but he still lost his composure. This was related to his son's kidney. Wasn't his son's kidney Lin Yi's? Whose did it belong to? Was Lin Yi's kidney removed or not? Oh, I was injured a few days ago, but I'm fine now. Lin Yi smiled. Fabai let out a sigh of relief when he heard Lin Yi's words. But then he thought about it again. Something was wrong. It had only been a few days since the kidney transplant. How could Lin Yi still be alive and kicking? It was completely illogical. Even if Lin Yi was a mystic class master, wasn't Uncle Zhu still lying in bed? Wait, he said that he was injured a few days ago. Could it be that he was injured by Uncle Zhu? When did you get hurt? Zhong Fabai asked subconsciously. Was he injured by Uncle Zhu? You don't know? Lin Yi asked back. Then Pinliang. Fabai wanted to ask more, but he suddenly realized that Pinliang's classmates were also here. He could only shut his mouth. He had a stomach full of questions. He could only invite Pinliang's classmates and teacher in first. Otherwise, it would be bad if the police got suspicious. There were even police patrolling the corridor. Welcome to visit Pinliang. Fabai suppressed his doubts and let Lin Yi and the others into the ward. Pinliang was lying on his side on the bed. He was originally welcoming his teacher and classmates with a smile. He was about to say a few words of gratitude when he suddenly saw Lin Yi among them. He was stunned. Didn't Lin Yi's kidney get removed? He should be lying in the hospital now. How could he still come to visit him? How is it possible? Oh, Pinliang classmate, I heard that you are now a healthy person with 2 kidneys. As long as it doesn't reject you, you will be the same as us. You don't have to worry about it. Yushu wanted to mock Pinliang, but when she remembered what Professor Liu said before, she changed it to comfort him. However, this consolation sounded a little awkward. If it didn't reject him, then it would be the same. But what about rejection? Thank you. Pinliang's mind wasn't on Yushu's sarcasm at all. Even if Yushu scolded his mother right now, he wouldn't feel much. At this moment, all his thoughts were on Lin Yi. Did Lin Yi give his kidney to him or not? If he didn't, then whose kidney did it belong to? Wouldn't that mean rejection? He suddenly remembered what Yushu said before. As long as it didn't reject him, then he would be the same as them. Was Yushu hinting at something? Pinliang knew that Yushu and Lin Yi had a close relationship. Did Yushu know something then? Was she hinting at him that his kidney wasn't Lin Yi's? In other words, it wouldn't be a match, and there would be rejection soon? At that thought, Pinliang's mind went blank, and his eyes started to glaze over. The illusion from before was completely gone at this moment. He was delusional enough to think that he could become a golden class master after getting Lin Yi's kidney, but now it seemed like his kidney wouldn't be a match. Pinliang didn't know how he'd gotten through all this time. His classmates and teachers were trying to comfort him, but he didn't hear a single word they said. His mind was filled with thoughts of Lin Yi, his kidney, and Yushu's innuendo. His kidney wasn't Lin Yi's? Now it seemed like it was 80% true. Otherwise, Lin Yi wouldn't be so kind as to visit him after his kidney was removed. He might even kill him. But Lin Yi didn't do that, and he even came to visit him openly. Then wouldn't he be? Pinliang was still lying on the bed with a sluggish gaze after the teacher and students left. No one knew what he was thinking. The teacher and students thought that Pinliang was too weak after the surgery and didn't want to talk. They didn't think much of it and left the ward after a simple glance at him. Lin Yi looked at Pinliang meaningfully as he left. The kid's kidneys weren't showing any signs of rejection yet, were they? Zhong Fabai frowned. Obviously, he also thought of this tragic possibility. His son's kidney wasn't Lin Yi's. Did he get the wrong kidney? But Jiang Wen's kidney trafficking organization had been annihilated. It was impossible to find out who his son's kidney belonged to now. He didn't even know who to look for. Even if Jiang Wen wasn't caught, he must have escaped, and he wouldn't be able to contact him. Zhong Fabai sighed. Why was his son's life so hard? He finally got a kidney, and it still didn't match. Chapter 746. The couple Pinliang. Don't panic. I'll go find the doctor now and ask them to do a full body checkup for you. Zhong Pinliang had completely lost his composure, and Fabai naturally couldn't do the same. Otherwise, Zhong Pinliang would be even more anxious. Although he was panicking, he could only force himself to calm down. Maybe Jiang Wen and the others mistook that person for Lin Yi. They can't just grab a random person and exchange their kidney with you, can they? A kidney is worth a lot of money. They wouldn't do something so strenuous and unrewarding. Pinliang calmed down a little after hearing his father's words. Indeed, Jiang Wen wouldn't do something so strenuous and unrewarding. It was better to exchange a compatible kidney than to exchange it for a random kidney. Kidneys could be sold for a lot of money. Exchanging a kidney was worth money too. Why would he do that? The only possibility was that Jiang Wen caught someone who looked similar to Lin Yi and mistook that person for Lin Yi, so he exchanged his kidney with him. Okay, then let's do a checkup first. Pinliang nodded. Fabai didn't dare to delay and went to find the doctor immediately. Pinliang's kidney transplant wasn't done by Songshan's first hospital, so they didn't have the relevant data. They wouldn't follow up on Pinliang's treatment and only did some routine post-surgery treatment. Fabai was afraid that Pinliang's kidney would attract the attention of the police, so he didn't ask the doctor to follow up on Pinliang's treatment. He trusted Jiang Wen a lot. If Jiang Wen said that the kidney was a perfect match, then there shouldn't be any problem. Fabai wanted to wait for Pinliang's body to recover a bit before giving him a full body checkup, but he couldn't care so much right now. Fabai found Pinliang and pushed him out of the room for a full body checkup at the same time. In another room in the hospital, as expected, Lu Bojiao woke up in the afternoon, just as Lin Yi predicted. Even the doctors were amazed after seeing him. How was it possible for a person to wake up with a ventilator to sustain his life? His body's indicators had improved significantly. Other than some injuries, there were no other problems? Was this a miracle in the history of medicine? Lingshan, however, didn't mention the treatment process. She only told the hospital that they'd invited a specialist to treat him and that the details were confidential. The hospital couldn't do anything about it. If the police said it was confidential, then it was confidential. They could only cooperate with the police and arrange for Lu Bojiao's follow-up treatment. This time, Lu Bojiao wasn't as stubborn as before. Perhaps he knew that he didn't die, but he didn't know if he would have good fortune in the future. Everything depended on his choice. Lu Bojiao didn't expect that the psychopathic murderer would be able to find him after he entered the hospital. Moreover, he snuck into the ward under the protection of the police and almost killed him. If he didn't die this time, it was hard to say whether he would die the next time. Lu Bojiao knew how ruthless those people were. Although this psychopathic murderer didn't say anything, he was definitely sent by those people to silence him. There was no doubt about it. Since he was going to die either way, Lu Bojiao might as well cooperate with the police. He knew that as long as he was alive, those people wouldn't let him go. He might as well sentence him to prison. It was safer. Lu Bojia's condition stabilized. Lingshan and Yutian came in and sat not far from Lu Bojia's bed. Lu Bojia, you still don't want to say anything? Lingshan looked at Bojia on the sickbed. She'd thought that he was the victim, but now it seemed that it was just an internal conflict. If you weren't lucky enough to meet a miracle doctor, do you think you'd still be alive? Lingshan's words weren't polite, but there was no need to be polite to people like Lu Bojia. Not only did he cause Lin Yi to lose a lot of qi, but he also caused a lot of trouble and confusion for the police. After Lu Bojia woke up, he heard from the doctor about the time he was unconscious and the situation. He was completely relying on the ventilator to maintain his life. Once the ventilator was removed, he would die. All in all, the hospital couldn't do anything about his injury. The police invited an expert from somewhere to treat Lu Bojia, and that was how Lu Bojia was able to get out of danger. You guys, how much do you know? Lu Bojia asked with a bit of hope in his heart. He didn't know how much the police knew, so he could choose what he wanted to say. The tomb raiding organization codenamed Couple has been arrested. Chen Yutian didn't say that the two leaders of the couple were killed. Instead, he said that they were caught. This was to give Lu Bojia psychological pressure that the police had found evidence of his crimes. According to their confession, you are also one of the tomb robbers, and you are also involved in their next plan. This time, your family was killed because of the other tomb robbers, right? Lu Bojia didn't know that Chen Yutian was right. Yutian didn't say it in detail, but he basically said the truth. But the more he said it, the more Lu Bojia thought that the police already knew most of the situation. After all, the couple was arrested, and the police would be able to find out everything about him. Couple thief? What do they do? Tomb raiding? What does that have to do with me? Lu Bojia tried to ask. He didn't believe that the couple would give him up as soon as they were arrested. This didn't make sense. He didn't have any conflict of interest with them. There were rules in the tomb raiding business. If you went in and bit people, then you might attract revenge from your peers. Even if you went in, you still have family, right? If they couldn't get revenge on you, they would get revenge on your family. Therefore, after many grave robbers were caught, they would only confess to their own problems. As for the other grave robber organizations and their sales channels, they would not say much. Otherwise, their families outside might very well incur the wrath of others. Haha, you're thinking that it's unrealistic for the couple to only give you up, right? Lingshan had been a police officer for many years, and she knew how to read people's expressions. She knew what Lu Bojia was thinking just by looking at his expression. Chapter 747. Chapter 0747. Seeing Lin Yi, he believed that even if the couple mentioned him, they wouldn't say too much. They couldn't even explain their own crimes, so why would they mention him? In fact, the couple didn't mention anyone else, but we found a work handbook from them. There are some clues in it. Chen Yutian smiled and passed a copy to Lu Bojia. Lu Bojia's face changed when he saw the copy of the notes Chen Yutian handed over. Lu Bojia's name was written on the copy of the notebook, and it was also stated that he was investigating the tomb with the grave robbers. Of course, these words alone weren't enough to serve as solid evidence. However, the key point was that Lu Bojia didn't know that the couple had been killed during their resistance. Therefore, as long as the police interrogated the couple about Lu Bojia, they wouldn't be able to hide anything. At this moment, Lu Bojia didn't plan to hide anymore. He couldn't hide it anymore, so he might as well tell them everything. The handbook is correct. The psychopathic murderer was probably hired by the Red Tower tomb robbers to kill me. Lu Bojia sighed. Red Tower grave robbers? This tomb was discovered by you. Red Tower grave robbers, and Old Hay? Chen Yutian asked. It shouldn't be said that it was discovered by us, but by Red Tower, Old Hay, and Red Tower. Lu Bojia shook his head. I'm just an expert. Because I know a little about the tomb's mechanisms and secret passages, Red Tower would always call me along when they do something. They would also give me some of the loot, so it can be said that we're working together. Why did they want to kill you this time? Chen Yutian asked. I've seen this tomb. It's very dangerous inside, and I don't have full confidence that I can open it. But based on my past experience, there must be treasures under the danger. I'm planning to study it carefully after I come back and find a way to open it, Lu Buojia said. This has nothing to do with killing them? Chun Yutian frowned. The people from the Red Tower think that I want to take it all for myself. In fact, I do have this thought. Lu Buojia smiled bitterly. We've worked together for so many years. Who doesn't know each other? He guessed what I was thinking and was afraid that I would leak the information or that I would want to take the treasures of the tomb for myself, so he wanted to silence me. Tell us the location of the tomb and how to solve it, Chen Yutian said. You want to enter the tomb? Lu Buojia was stunned. That's impossible. You don't have a professional. If you go in, I'm afraid you won't be able to come out. You don't have to worry about that. Lingshan interrupted him. You just need to cooperate with the police. Your attitude will determine your sentence. Okay. Lu Buojia didn't say anything else and nodded. Since he chose to cooperate, naturally, he would cooperate. He knew that with what he did before, even if he didn't get a death sentence, it would be a life sentence. Even if there was a life sentence, he was already in his 40s. It was hard to say if he could get out of prison while he was still alive. Before he went to prison, there were some things he had to tell Lingshan. He may be a grave robber, but he was a person who knew how to repay kindness. Last time, the person who saved me from a psycho murderer was one of your people? Lu Buojia asked. Why do you ask? Lingshan paused. I have around 30 million, and I took out 10 million to thank him. Lu Buojia said. To thank him for saving my life. Your money belongs to Black Gold. They'll confiscate it, Lingshan said faintly. No, my money comes from legitimate sources. I write articles for magazines, and I work as a guide and specialist for all sorts of professional exploration groups. There's an account book in my study, and I've recorded all my earnings. Lu Buojia smiled. As for the antiques, I didn't sell any of them. They're all in the basement of my house. You'll know when you see them. Oh. Lingshan paused and nodded. If that's the case, the police will consider respecting your wishes. Also, I'll take out another 10 million to thank the doctor who saved my life today, Lu Buojia said. The last 10 million will be enough for me to live on if I can get out of prison while I'm still alive. My wife and kids are gone, and there's no need for that much money. I might as well give it to the people who helped me. If I'm sentenced to death, you guys can donate the remaining 10 million to the Archaeology Research Institute. It'll be my last wish as an archaeologist. Lingshan didn't think that Lu Buojia wasn't a sinner, but that he still had a kind heart and conscience. When she thought about it, the crimes he committed weren't completely heartless. The person who saved you that day and today is the same person. Lingshan didn't want to lie to Lu Buojia. Are you sure you want to give him the 20 million? The same person? Lingshan's words surprised Lu Buojia as well. He's a doctor. You can say yes, but you can also say no. Lingshan didn't answer the question directly. Can I see him? Lu Buojia pondered for a moment and suddenly asked, You want to see him? What's the matter? Lingshan was curious about Lu Buojia's request. He saved me, and I want to give him some benefits. Lu Buojia said, Can you help me contact him? What kind of benefits? Lingshan asked curiously. It doesn't have anything to do with my case, so I don't have to tell you. Lu Buojia was a bachelor as well. It didn't matter if he went in or not. All right, I'll contact him for you. But it's not up to me to decide whether or not you want to see him. Lingshan nodded. If this benefit was given to someone else, she might ask. But since Lu Buojia said he wanted to give something to Lin Yi, she didn't want to ask. She still wanted Lin Yi to get some benefits, or else Lin Yi would lose a lot of pure qi. Lu Buojia nodded. I'm tired. I need to rest. I'll give you the information when I recover. Lingshan and Yutian didn't stay long and left the room. Chapter 748. Give you some benefits. Perhaps he's thought things through after this life and death experience. Yutian said, People who've been through life and death are always different. Maybe. Lingshan nodded as she dialed Lin Yi's number. Lin Yi had just finished visiting Pinliang when he got a call from Lingshan. What's up? Lu Buojia woke up and wants to see you. Lingshan said. Wants to see me? Why do you want to see me? Lin Yi couldn't understand why Buojia wanted to see him. He said he wanted to thank you and give you some benefits? Lingshan said. He said he wanted to give you 20 million as a reward, but but I told him you're a doctor, so he wants to see you and give you some benefits. Oh. Linny was a little puzzled. What kind of benefits would Boja give him? But since it was something good, Linny had no reason to reject it. He'd saved him twice, and he didn't get anything in return. Is he still in the hospital? Yes, he's in the same room, Lingshan said. Where are you? I'm at the hospital too. I'll go over now, Linny said and hung up. After that, Linny sent the Miss and Yushu a message, telling them that he had other things to do in the hospital and wouldn't be going back to school with the car. Yao Yao, why is Shield Bro so busy every day? Yushu felt that Linny was busy every day. Busy with all sorts of things? I'm not sure. Maybe he's not a follower at all, and it was just a coincidence that he appeared in the villa. Mengyao realized that she didn't understand Linny at all. From a migrant worker to a mysterious master. Oh, then will he really leave in the future? Yushu was a little disappointed. Probably. We're all grown up now, and we need to learn how to protect ourselves. We shouldn't always trouble other people. Mengyao looked out the window at the direction Lin Yi disappeared in, a little sad. But I don't want to grow up, Yao Yao. Yushu shook her head. You have to think about it, even if you don't want to. You're not young anymore. Mengyao pinched Yushu's cheeks. See, you won't cry even if I pinch you, so you're not a kid anymore. Woo! I'm crying. Yushu started crying. Mengyao ignored her and turned away, deep in thought. Linny saw Lingshan and Yutian outside Boja's room. Linny. Lingshan walked over to Lin Yi. You're here? Lu Bojia said he wanted to rest for a while. I'll go check on him. No need. I'll just go in. Lin Yi shook his head. Rest? Lu Bojia had rested for so many days, so he must be very energetic now. Lingshan didn't say anything after hearing what Linny said. Since Linny did this, he must have his reasons. Linny pushed the door open and entered Boja's room. As expected, Boja wasn't resting. Instead, he was scribbling something on a piece of paper. He froze when he saw Lin Yi. Who are you? You're looking for me? Lin Yi didn't answer Boja's question. You're the person who saved me twice? Boja wasn't stupid. He immediately guessed Lin Yi's identity. Lin Yi nodded. That's me. I'm a person who knows how to repay favors. Lu Boja nodded, not suspecting Lin Yi's identity. Although Lin Yi looked a little too young, Lu Bojia had always relied on his skills to make a living. He knew that age doesn't determine one's ambition. Since Lin Yi was able to appear here, it meant that he had the police's permission. Who else could it be if not the person who saved him? I don't like to save people for free, Lin Yi shrugged. If it wasn't for Lingshan, I wouldn't have come to save you. Nice. Bojia smiled. That's good. I like it. What do you want to give me? 20 million? Lin Yi looked at Bojia and asked faintly. You probably won't be interested in that. With your medical skills, you can earn 20 million no matter what. Bojia waved his hand. Lu Bojia waved his hand. He escaped from death this time, and the hospital couldn't do anything about it. Lin Yi cured him, and with his medical skills, Lin Yi wouldn't be short of money. Lin Yi smiled and didn't say anything. Did the police tell you who I am? Bojia asked. No, I didn't ask. Lin Yi shook his head. I'm an archaeologist, as well as a tomb raider. Bojia briefly introduced himself before continuing. According to the ancient books I've read, this tomb near Songshan might very well be the tomb of Zhang Liju, the medicine saint of the people. You're a doctor, and there might be something you need in this tomb. Oh, you want me to dig a tomb? Lin Yi blinked. Zhang Liju. Lin Yi seemed to have seen this name in one of the old man's books. The police might want to go. With your relationship with the police, you can go as well. Bojia passed a document to Lin Yi. This is the location of the tomb's mechanisms that I've deduced. It's not comprehensive, but it'll help you. Why don't you give it to the police? Lin Yi asked after taking a look. This has nothing to do with my case. I'll tell you if I want to, and I won't, Bojia smiled. Thank you. Lin Yi took the document. He didn't doubt Bojia's words because Bojia didn't look like he was talking. According to Lin Yi's observation, what he said should be true. Besides, there was no need for him to lie. We don't owe each other anymore. As for the 20 million, if you want it, then take it. If you don't want it, then donate it for me. It doesn't matter where you donate it to. It's already your money. Bojia smiled and closed his eyes. Linny put the documents on his body and left the room. Lingshan and Yutian were waiting at the door. Lingshan wanted to say something when she saw Linny come out. I'll be leaving if there's nothing else. Linny looked at Lingshan. He knew that she wanted to ask what Bojia gave him, but Linny didn't tell her. Okay. Lingshan was curious, but she felt that she shouldn't know that much. What if Bojia gave Linny something that went against her principles? Should she do something? Lingshan felt a headache. Chapter 749. Trouble again. Lingshan? Yutian saw Lingshan staring blankly at Lin Yi's back, feeling bitter. Lingshan paused, coming back to her senses. What's wrong? Nothing. Mr. Lin's already gone. Yutian smiled. Ah, I understand. Lingshan sighed. I'll go back to the police station first. You staying here? I'll stay here. Yutian sighed. I don't know if the Red Tower tomb robbers will send more people after Lu Bojia. I've already contacted the local police, and they'll send people to help me. Lingshan nodded and went back to the police station, but got a call from Director Chan on the way back. The contents of the call, on the other hand, made Lingshan very depressed. Today, the city leader was secretly investigating the price of food in the market, but his phone and wallet were stolen by thieves. This thief had reached a certain level of arrogance. Logically speaking, it wasn't the criminal police's turn to deal with thieves. The local police stations would deal with it. But this time, the city's leaders were alerted, and Chief Chen also pointed out that the thieves in Songshan had formed a group of thieves, carrying out organized and disciplined criminal activities. This needed the criminal police to investigate and deal with. There was no deadline given, but it was a case that the city leader was supervising. How could they not solve it as soon as possible? Lingshan felt that she was so unlucky. She hadn't even dealt with one problem, and this one was coming. There was no end to this. She was the new captain of the criminal police, and she didn't even see this many cases when she was the vice captain. This group of thieves had been formed for a long time, too. Why did they have to deal with them now? But Director Chan had said it himself, so what else could she do? She could only carry out the order unconditionally. However, this thief group had very strict organizational discipline. It was impossible to hurt the entire thief group by simply catching a few thieves. It might even alert the enemy. Lingshan drove the car, depressed, thinking about how to deal with this group. She thought about it for a long time, but still couldn't come up with anything. The normal thieves were all dealt with by the police station, and they didn't have records with the criminal police. Lingshan couldn't think of anything right now, so she could only go back and organize the information. Subconsciously, Lingshan took out her phone, but smiled bitterly when she took it out. How did I become dependent on him? You want to call Linny whenever you're in trouble? In the past, she'd only call Linny if there was something she couldn't handle, but now, no matter what happened, the first person she thought of was Linny. Forget it. I'll just fight my way over and try it out. Lingshan's thinking was simple. Asking was better than not asking at all. Troubling Linny had become a habit anyways, and she felt like she owed him a lot of favors. She didn't feel pressured anymore. Linny got a call from Lingshan not long after he left the hospital. What is it now? Linny picked up, wondering why Lingshan was calling him again so soon. Linny, do you know anyone from the thief group? Lingshan asked, hoping to give it a try. Thief group? No. Linny said straightforwardly. It was an answer Lingshan had expected, but she was still a little disappointed. You really don't know? Lingshan didn't want to give up. She felt that Linny was omnipotent, and whenever she asked him for help, he'd always solve the problem perfectly. Nope, why would I know them? Linny was getting impatient. Is there something you need? Yes. You're a good person. Don't get angry. Lingshan jumped, and her voice became soft and pitiful. Then can you help Miss Silly keep an eye out for them? It's a thief group. Oh, I'll tell you when I see them. Linny hung up the phone, amused. This Lingshan really came to him for everything? Lingshan hung up angrily. She'd tell him if she saw them? Didn't that mean she didn't say anything? Who would see a thief group for no reason? Lingshan was still angry when her eyes focused on something not far from the road. A cute girl was currently putting her evil hand into the pocket of a man with a big belly. Very quickly, The girl got it. She took out a big wallet and walked to the side with a smile on her face. Ling Shan smiled coldly in her heart. She'd walked all over the place, but found it by chance. This girl was a repeat offender. She'd met her a few times before, but she never managed to catch her. She wanted to see if she could get any information about the thief group from her mouth. Ling Shan stopped the car by the roadside and got out, slowly approaching the girl. Xiaoke was in a really good mood today. She saw a rich and heartless fatty get out of the BMW and kick the little girl to the curb because a little girl selling flowers blocked his way. He ignored the little girl's cries and left after parking the car. The passers-by were angry but didn't dare say anything, so Xiaoke locked her target on this rich and heartless fatty. The fatty's alertness was really bad, and Xiaoke got him easily. She opened the wallet and saw that he had quite a lot of money. He counted and found that it was about 7 or 8,000 yuan. Xiaoke didn't expect her luck to be this good. She'd run into so many fat sheep these 2 days. Although she met a strong person yesterday who stole her money, she was still very lucky. However, as happy as she didn't let her guard down. What happened with Linny yesterday reminded her that she couldn't let her guard down. So, when Ling Shan approached, Xiaoke sensed it. Xiaoke casually put the money into her own wallet and threw the wallet into the trash can. Just when Ling Shan was about to get close to her, Xiaoke turned and ran. Xiaoke, stop right there. Ling Shan was about to explode. She thought that she could catch Xiaoke when she wasn't paying attention, but she didn't expect Xiaoke to be so vigilant. She ran away the moment she got close. Bye, Ling Shan sis. Xiaoke turned around and made a face before disappearing at the end of the street. Ling Shan didn't chase after her because she wouldn't be able to catch up even if she did. She'd chased her twice before, and she still couldn't catch Xiaoke. Xiaoke, just you wait. Ling Shan stared at the direction Xiaoke disappeared in, not angry at all. Chapter 750. Zhong Pingliang's tragedy in the hospital. Zhong Pingliang's medical report came out very quickly. The results shocked Fabai and Zhong Pingliang. The kidney showed signs of rejection and necrosis. It had to be removed as soon as possible. The kidney is damaged? Zhong Pingliang looked at the report in disbelief. Fabai, on the other hand, was smoking and pacing back and forth in the ward. This was the worst result. Although he had expected it, he still had some hope when he expected it. But now, there was no hope at all. Fuck, Jiang Wen my ass. He tricked me. Zhong Pingliang was so angry that he threw the pillow on the bed to the floor. Pingliang, don't be rash. You are still a patient. Don't get angry. Fabai was also very angry. This Jiang Wen, if you didn't want to replace Pingliang's kidney, then why did you have to replace it with someone who was not a match? Of course, Fabai didn't believe that Jiang Wen didn't know about it. In the doctor's words, 2 days of rejection meant that the kidney wasn't a match at all. Didn't they do a matching test? Dad, what should I do? The kidney I just replaced is damaged? Zhong Pingliang was in despair. I thought I would be a normal person in the future, but now? No matter what, we should listen to the doctor and remove this kidney. Otherwise, the damage will be even worse if the kidney dies in the body. Fabai sighed and made a decision. As for Jiang Wen, we will have plenty of chances to deal with him in the future, but I really don't want to be a person with only one kidney anymore. It's too painful. Zhong Pingliang had wanted to become a master with a golden class kidney, but now, it was as if he had been struck by lightning. All his hopes were shattered. We can look for a kidney slowly. Fabai said, if we work for Master Bing, we will have a lot of money in the future. With money, we won't have to worry about not being able to buy a good kidney. The most important thing now is to remove this kidney. That's the only way. Zhong Pingliang clenched his fist. Jiang Wen, you and I are enemies. You have made me suffer 3 times. Including this nephrectomy, Zhong Pingliang had been cut 3 times. Since the decision was made, Zhong Fabai quickly contacted the hospital to perform a nephrectomy on Pingliang. The police, on the other hand, didn't suspect anything. After all, illegal agents scammed people all the time, and Zhong Pingliang was just unlucky. It took him so much effort to get a new kidney, and it was a mismatch. It died immediately. Of course, Jiang Wen was lying in the ward with a face full of pain. He wanted to contact Zhong Pingliang, But he couldn't. The kidney was in Zhong Pingliang's body, and he didn't know if he could get it back. Although Jiang Wen could use Hao San's connections to get him another kidney after leaving the hospital, a new kidney wouldn't be as good as the original one. He still didn't know that Pingliang's kidney was about to be removed. If he knew, he'd probably cry out loud. The news of Tang Yun's family buying a house quickly spread throughout the slums. Several residents of Shantytown, who had a good relationship with Mrs. Tang, came to the hospital at that moment. They wanted to ask Mrs. Tang if there was any way. After all, after the relocation of Shantytown, it was still uncertain what it would be like. Everyone wanted to buy another building to live in. What? Not only was it cheaper by 250,000 yuan, they even gave us home appliances and renovations? Fawn's parents widened their eyes as they looked at the excited Mrs. Tang in disbelief. That's right. Our Lil, he knows the big boss of the developer, and the manager of the sales office acts according to the big boss's mood. Otherwise, do you think I'm so lucky to get the special prize after getting a discount of 250,000 yuan? Although Mrs. Tang didn't say it out loud, the hint was obvious enough. In fact, she saw it clearly. She got an electric kettle, not a special prize. But when she thought about the way the manager looked at Fatty Lai, she guessed that Fatty Lai was the big boss. And Fatty Lai was very respectful to Lin Yi, acting like a little brother. How could Mrs. Tang not see that? Moreover, it was her family that asked Fatty Lai to do something for them. How could he treat them to a meal after he did it? Although Mrs. Tang didn't say anything before, she couldn't help but start bragging to her neighbors when she returned to the hospital. Lil Wang, you really found yourself a good son-in-law. Fun's mother sighed with envy. Your Fun isn't bad either. Although Mrs. Tang felt that Tang Yun found a good man, Fun was already a broken flower with a crippled leg. How could she find a good boyfriend? She was so lucky. Fun's mother froze and thought about it carefully. Her daughter couldn't be compared to Tang Yun. In this situation, she was still able to find Kong Xiaobo. It was a blessing from 8 lifetimes. Xiaobo and Linny have a good relationship. Your family should be able to get a special price house. Mrs. Tang said, but the most important thing is to get the money. Without money, no matter how cheap the house is, it's useless, right? That's true. I wonder when Qibing Real Estate will come to talk about the compensation? Fun's mother shook her head. We aren't as lucky as your family. You got 3 million in one go. Sigh. Isn't it because of old Tang's leg? Mrs. Tang's face bloomed with joy when she talked about the 3 million. She didn't feel sad at all. She knew that although the money was exchanged with her leg, it wasn't the case at all. If Linny didn't teach Tsihua's brother a lesson, would he take out the money so easily? It was impossible. Our Phone's leg is broken, but how can we get a single cent? Phone's mother sighed. That depends on the method. Maybe we can get that Kong Mingming to pay some money as well? Mrs. Tang suggested. How is that possible? How can he pay us? Phone's mother shook her head. As they were talking, Mrs. Tang's phone rang. Let me take this first. Mrs. Tang looked at the caller ID in confusion. It was an unfamiliar number. Mrs. Tang didn't have many calls. Other than Tang Yun and Tang Juqing, no one else would call her. Hello? Hello? Mrs. Tang picked up the phone. Hello. Is this Miss Wang Yujia? Su Jiaonong tried to make his voice sound gentle. Yes, and you are? Mrs. Tang froze. She didn't know who the person on the other side of the phone was. Hello, Miss Wang. I am Su Jiaonong, the project manager of Qibing Real Estate. Su Jiaonong said politely. Chapter 751. Compensation for demolition. Although Mrs. Tang knew how powerful Linny was, she was still afraid of the people from Qibing Real Estate. Those people were like the mafia, overbearing. If it wasn't for Lin Yi's protection, she wouldn't dare to come into contact with them. It's like this. Didn't we demolish your house before? So, the compensation for your house has been approved. We would like to invite you to the headquarters of Qibing Real Estate, Qibing Tower, at 8 a.m. tomorrow to discuss the compensation with us, Su Jiaonong said. There's compensation? Mrs. Tang was taken aback. She thought that the 3 million Lin he had asked for already included the compensation for the demolition. Why was he giving her money now? Mrs. Tang was shocked. Of course, we demolished your house, so we'll naturally give you compensation. Su Jiaonong said, of course, We've set the number at 2 million. You'll have to come tomorrow to discuss the details. If you think it's not enough, you can bring it up tomorrow. Okay, okay. Is it 8 a.m. tomorrow? I'm coming over. Mrs. Tang was shocked. Another 2 million for no reason? Okay, after you arrive, take the elevator from the underground parking lot and go to the second floor. You'll see the demolition team there. Su Jianong hinted to Mrs. Tang to let Lin Yi drive her there. Okay, I'll remember it. No problem. See you tomorrow. Mrs. Tang quickly noted it down. After hanging up, everyone looked at Mrs. Tang in confusion. Wang, what's wrong? What compensation? Xiaofan's mother asked curiously. Didn't my house get demolished? Someone called Su Jianong from the demolition team of Qibing Real Estate called me and asked me to go to his company tomorrow to get the compensation. 2 million. Mrs. Tang was shocked by the number herself. Her house was worth at most 100 to 200,000. How could they compensate 2 million? Mrs. Tang's first thought was that it was Lin Yi's contribution. Wasn't Qibing Real Estate managed by Cihua and Master Bing? Could it be that Cihua was afraid that Lin Yi would cause trouble for them, so he came to please Lin Yi? Thinking about it, this was the only possibility. 2 million. When Xiaofan's mother heard this number, she was immediately dumbfounded. The other neighbors were also the same. After hearing this number, they were suddenly shocked and didn't know what to say. Your house is worth 2 million? Lu Xinwen's mother asked in surprise. They are afraid of Lin Yi, that's why they gave us 2 million. Otherwise, that broken house is not even worth 200,000, let alone 2 million. Although Mrs. Tang said it calmly, she was very happy in her heart. Like I said, our broken house is worth 2 million. We can even buy a villa with 2 million. Xiaofan's mother shook her head. It's already not bad if they can give us 80 to 100,000. Don't say that. This kind of thing depends on negotiation. Mrs. Tang laughed. Xiaofan's mother and Lu Xinwen's mother sighed. Negotiation? Our family doesn't have a powerful figure like Lin Yi, so where would we go to negotiate? Will they negotiate with us? Xiaofan's mother and Lu Xinwen's mother were a little dispirited when they thought about the gap between their family and the developer. They chatted for a while and left to discuss how to deal with the developer. Previously, they thought that Tang Yun's family was very unlucky. They were the first to get their house demolished. But now, it seemed that they were the best. After the neighbors left, Mrs. Tang immediately told the good news to Tang Yun. Qibing Real Estate Company just called me. They want to compensate us 2 million for the demolition fees. Mrs. Tang just saw a huge sum of 3 million, and now there was another 2 million. She wasn't as excited as before. They want to compensate us 2 million? Really? Tang Yun didn't believe it. Didn't they just compensate us 3 million? Why do they want to compensate us 2 million today? I don't know. Maybe they are afraid of Lin Yi? They want to spend money to please Lin Yi and are afraid that Lin Yi will cause trouble for them again? Mrs. Tang guessed. Yesterday, that Li Cihua was quite afraid of Lin Yi, right? Please? There's no need for that, right? Tang Yun heard her mother's words and became suspicious. Although he is afraid of Lin Yi didn't say anything. There's no reason for them to give us money on their own, right? This doesn't make sense, right? Doesn't make sense? How is it not reasonable? Isn't it good that they are giving us money? Mrs. Tang felt that Tang Yun was being too careful. It's not that it's not good, but why would they give us money? Mom, I think there's something wrong with this. Tang Yun felt that something was wrong. Why would Li Cihua give them money on his own initiative? When Lin Yi asked for 3 million, he was unwilling to give it to him. Why would he give it to them on his own initiative now? Won't we know tomorrow whether there's a problem or not? Mrs. Tang didn't care. Tomorrow at 8 in the morning, they want us to go to the second floor of Qibing Skyscraper to collect the compensation. Can you ask Lin Yi if he is free and ask him to go with us? Oh, Tang Yun wanted to ask Cihua what he was up to, but Cihua didn't seem to care. He gave them 3 million before, and now he gave them 2 million. Lin Yi received Tang Yun's call on the way to school. When he heard from Tang Yun that Qibing Real Estate wanted them to go to Qibing Skyscraper to collect the compensation tomorrow, Lin Yi was stunned. The Qibing Skyscraper is finished already? Tang Yun thought that Lin Yi would be curious about the compensation, but she didn't expect Lin Yi to ask such a question. She couldn't help but be amused by Lin Yi. Why? Do you want to demolish it again? Oh, I'll demolish it again if you piss me off again. Linny smiled. His skyscraper collapsed and he still wants to give you money? Are you retarded? I think so too. Do you think there's a problem here? Tang Yun had been worried about this problem. Huh. Aren't we idiots if we don't take the money? Lin Yi didn't think there was a problem. Since they are giving us money, I'll go with you tomorrow. But Tang Yun still felt that something was wrong. Even if there is a problem, what can we do? I'm here. What are you afraid of? Lin Yi was clear that even if Li Zihua and Zhao Qibing wanted to do something, what could they do? His strength had completely recovered, and it was impossible for them to make him stay in. Tang Yun heard Lin Yi's words and nodded. Yes, with Lin Yi here, what was there to worry about? Chapter 752. House You Came. After ending the call with Lin Yi, Tang Yun sent a message to her mother, telling her that Lin Yi would accompany her to Qibing Building to get the compensation. Mrs. Tang was relieved when she heard that Lin Yi would be accompanying her. Zihua was so afraid of Lin Yi, so she believed that he would be able to get more compensation tomorrow. From Su Jianong's tone, it seemed like the compensation could be increased. Lin Yi didn't think much about it. When he returned to school, he was relieved to see Miss and Yushu in the classroom. Lin Yi felt that these were troubled times, and he should be more careful. Lin Yi's feeling was right. At this moment, in the office of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, Fatty Lai's office, there was an uninvited guest. Although the products of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company hadn't officially entered the market yet, the company was already starting to take shape. It was completely reformed from the previous trading company, and only a few new departments were added. This was a piece of cake for Fatty Lai, a veteran in the business world. After Fatty Lai accompanied Lin Yi and Tang Yun to buy a house, he returned to Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. He used the poisoning incident of Songshan's first school to make a name for Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Fatty Lai wanted to follow up and release his company's first product, Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine, into the market. Fatty Lai was preparing a marketing plan and wanted to have a meeting with the higher-ups of the company. But when he returned to the company, his secretary called. Boss Lai, there is a client who wants to see you. He said that he is from Yinjing and wants to discuss a collaboration with our company. The secretary said, Do you think? I'm already back at the company. Where is he? Fatty Lai was startled. His company's products weren't even released into the market, and someone wanted to discuss a collaboration? However, in this period of time, Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company's name was very well known. They also shone in the auctions in Yinjing. If this customer came from Yinjing, then it was possible. In the VIP client room next to the general manager's office, the secretary lowered his voice. Director Lai, this client looks very young. Age isn't a symbol of strength. I'll take a look first. Fatty Lai thought to himself. Wasn't Lin Yi young as well? But his strength was quite formidable. Fatty Lai entered the company, and all the employees greeted him. Although the company was called Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company, the employees knew that Fatty Lai was the one in charge of the daily management, so they respected him. Fatty Lai took the elevator up and went straight to the VIP room without stopping. This was the first client he was going to work with, so Fatty Lai had to pay attention to it. The secretary saw Fatty Lai enter the VIP room and quickly stood up to welcome him. Chairman Lai, you're here. This is the client from Yinjing. Mr. Yu? Mr. Rain? Fatty Lai's eyes narrowed. His surname was Yu? Could it be someone from House Yu of Yinjing? House Yu wanted to work with him? Fatty Lai nodded and said to the secretary, Okay, I got it. You can go do what you need to do. Yes, Mr. Lai. The secretary placed the tea in front of Fatty Lai and Mr. Yu and left the meeting room. Chairman Lai, right? The young man with the surname Yu seemed to be arrogant. He didn't stand up but looked at Lai Changyi indifferently. Let me introduce myself. I'm Yu Kuan. This is my name card. Yu Kuan took out his name card and passed it to Fatty Lai. Fatty Lai didn't mind Yu Kuan's arrogance. He was a businessman, so he didn't show his emotions on his face. He still smiled as he took Yu Kuan's name card. He looked at the content. House Yu Business, General Manager Assistant Yu Kuan. House Yu Business? Fatty Lai didn't doubt it anymore. This Yu Kuan really came from House Yu. As such, It was normal for him to be a little arrogant. People from House U, the head of the 4 big houses and 5 small houses, people who came from there would definitely have a sense of superiority in their hearts. Hello, Assistant Yukuin. Fatty Lai smiled and shook Yukuin's hand. He was laughing coldly in his heart. You don't have to act all high and mighty in front of me. Sooner or later, your House U will come and carry my shoes for my boss. When that time comes, you'll have to get permission from me as your follower. I don't believe that no matter how powerful your House U is, you're all immortal monsters and won't die of old age. As long as you're sick and others can't cure you, you'll have to beg me if you want to live. Yukuin still didn't stand up. He just sat there and reached out his hand to shake Fatty Lai's hand. We don't need to say anything unnecessary. Let's get to the point. Mr. Yu, please go ahead. Fatty Lai nodded and sat opposite Yukuin. He looked like he was all ears. Miracle Dr. Guan's medicine company's pill of life extension and toxin cleansing and injury medicine were very popular in our House U's auction. I heard that your new product is going to be released soon. It's called Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine? Yukuin asked indifferently. That's right. It's in the final stage of preparation. It'll probably be released soon. Fatty Lai didn't hide anything. He had already said this during the press conference. There was no need to keep it a secret. Yes. Although your pill of life extension and toxin cleansing and injury medicine are quite popular, the future of this injury medicine is still unknown. Am I right? Yukuin looked at Fatty Lai and said in a condescending tone, Hee, of course. It's hard to say what the future of something that hasn't been released yet. Fatty Lai was still smiling. However, he was very dissatisfied with this Yukuin. Who the hell do you think you are? You dare to question the future of boss's injury medicine? You idiot. If you weren't from House U, I would have kicked you out of this meeting room. It seems like Mr. Lai is a smart man. This time, I'm representing House U to give your Miracle Dr. Guan's medicine company a benefit. Yukuin looked at Fatty Lai indifferently. However, before that, Mr. Lai must answer a few of my questions truthfully. Oh? What questions? Fatty Lai was getting more and more annoyed. Was this Yukuin retarded? Giving him a benefit? With his attitude, what benefit could he get? Why did House U send an idiot over? Chapter 753. For the map. Besides, if Yukuin's negotiation partner wasn't Fatty Lai, but someone like House Kong, who was eager to become a noble house, then no matter what Yukuin's attitude was, the other party would be grateful to him. This was House U's prestige, and it was also the pride of House U. So, from House U's point of view, Yukuin's attitude wasn't inappropriate at all. House U talking to someone else was a form of charity, a form of grace. But this time, they were looking for the wrong person. In Fatty Lai's heart, Lin Yi was the supreme being. House U was nothing in front of Lin Yi. House U was powerful? Then why did you buy our pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? The question is simple. Mr. Lai once bought a broken piece of the map in our House U's auction. May I know why Mr. Lai bought this piece of the map? Yukuin went straight to the point. He didn't think that Fatty Lai would hide anything in front of House U. If he was able to participate in House U's auction, then he must know House U's background. Who would dare go against House U? Map? What map? Fatty Lai was startled. Since when did he buy a map? Yukuin looked at Fatty Lai's expression and froze as well. He was a practitioner of martial arts and was good at reading people's expressions. From Fatty Lai's shocked expression, it seemed like Fatty Lai didn't know much about the map. However, Fatty Lai suddenly remembered that he did help Linny bid for a fragment of the map. Could it be that House U's people were here for the map? What cooperation? Benefits? Were they all excuses? Fatty Lai thought that it was possible. It was obvious that Yukuin came with a purpose, and that purpose was the map fragment. What kind of secret was hidden in the map? Mr. Lai, are you forgetful? Yukuin looked at Fatty Lai mockingly. You bought a map from the auction. How could you not remember? I remember. Fatty Lai knew he couldn't hide it anymore, so he admitted it, but I bought it out of curiosity, so I didn't think of it when you asked. Indeed, there is such a sheepskin map. Since Mr. Lai remembered, that's great. What are you going to do with this map? Can you tell me? In other words, do you have a similar map fragment in your hands? Yukuin was 80% sure that Fatty Lai didn't know what the map was for. Otherwise, Fatty Lai wouldn't have that shocked expression on his face when Linny asked him about it. I'm just curious. It's no big deal. I've never seen anything like it. Fatty Lai shook his head. Really? Obviously, Yukuin didn't trust Fatty Lai's words. Fatty Lai might not know the secret of the map, but if he hadn't seen the map before, why would he buy something useless? Of course, Fatty Lai smiled. All right, if that's the case, give me the map and I'll still give you something good. Yukuin decided to change his strategy. He wanted Fatty Lai to give him the map. If it was useful to him, he wouldn't give it to him. If it was useless, he would give it to him. Oh, you want to give me something good? Can you tell me about it first, Mr. Yu? Fatty Lai didn't agree to Yukuin's request directly. It's fine if I tell you. As long as you give me the map, House Yu will be the sole distributor of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, Yukuin said faintly. All you have to do is sit back and count your money. Huh. Fatty Lai looked at Yukuin in disbelief. You call this a benefit? You sure have a big appetite. You want to be the sole distributor of my company's products? Are you an idiot, or am I an idiot? The popularity of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company's products was foreseeable. Fatty Lai knew how powerful Linny was and how effective the products were. It could be said that whoever was the distributor would make the most money. Fatty Lai, on the other hand, didn't want to give up the dealership. He had a trading company that had merged with Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company to become a marketing department. He could do his own channels, so why would he give the profits to others? Of course, if it was a small company that wasn't famous, if they could establish a relationship with House Yu's trading company and let them be the sole distributor, they wouldn't have to worry about the sales. House Yu had a wide network. No matter where it was, they would give them face. So, under normal circumstances, if House Yu were to be the sole distributor of a new product, the company would save a lot of effort. Not only would they save on the distribution fees and advertising fees, they wouldn't have to worry about the sales of the product, because everything would be decided by House Yu. However, to Fatty Lai, this was like asking for a lion's share. How was this a benefit? It was obvious that Fatty Lai wanted benefits from him. How is it? Aren't the conditions good? Yukuin saw Fatty Lai's surprised expression and thought that he was shocked by the generous conditions. He couldn't help but feel proud. Hee, if it's a distribution cooperation, then I can't make the decision. Our Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company has a sales department, and we have our own distribution channels. Fatty Lai smiled apologetically, but if House Yu's trading company wants to order some injury medicine in bulk, we can give you a good price? What do you mean? Yukuin's face darkened immediately. He didn't expect Fatty Lai to reject him. House Yu offered to be the agent of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company and was rejected? Yukuin felt like he had lost face. Not only did he lose face, but House Yu also lost face. How could Fatty Lai refuse to do something that others could only dream of? Didn't he know how wide House Yu's distribution channels were? A new product that hadn't even entered the market, and he wanted to create his own distribution channels? The market was now under the control of Dr. Kang's golden creation. How could a new brand like you want to create your own? You did have some reputation in the upper class, but you want the people to recognize you without House Yu's distribution channels? Dream on. Hee, Mr. Yu, the company doesn't belong to me alone. I'm just a manager. Within my authority, I can only discuss the supply and sales of the product. As for the distribution rights, I don't have that power because the company's original intention was to be the agent. Fatty Lai shrugged. Chapter 754. Was this considered a benefit? House Yu had high hopes for the products from Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. After all, the effects had been tested. As long as it was a special edition injury medicine, it would be very useful. So House Yu smelled a business opportunity and wanted to get the distribution rights before Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company became famous. Then they wouldn't have to worry about the future. Money would come rolling in. From House Yu's perspective, although Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company had good products, it was still a small company. They would definitely feel uneasy when the new products hit the market. If a giant like House Yu cooperated with them, they would be overjoyed. They would even give up a lot of benefits. House Yu's plan was good. That was why Yukuin was so arrogant. He didn't want to be rejected by Fatty Lai and lose all his face. His arrogant attitude before was like a monkey. Fatty Lai didn't even want to give up the distribution rights. He was just thinking too much. This isn't my personal decision. I've said it before, I'm just a professional manager. Fatty Lai smiled. Mr. Yu, other than that, what other benefits will you give us? Fatty Lai's words sounded like mockery to Yu Kuen's ears. Yu Kuen's face turned red and he looked at Fatty Lai with hatred. Piece of the map? Name a price? I'm sorry, I don't lack money. Besides, I gave the map to someone else. Fatty Lai shook his head. Gave it to someone else? You actually gave it to someone else? Yu Kuen was agitated and lost his good attitude. He was one of the most outstanding disciples of the third generation of House Yu. He was the object of admiration everywhere. But here, he was being rejected. He had lost his patience and was getting angry. I bought it with my own money. Why can't I give it to someone else? Fatty Lai shrugged. Good, very good. We'll see. Yu Kuen stood up and walked out of the guest room. You will know the price of offending House Yu. Offending House Yu? Fatty Lai looked at Yu Kuen's back and laughed coldly. This was a disciple of House Yu? What the hell? He had been talking to him in a friendly manner. He only rejected his overbearing suggestion, and now he offended House Yu? With this kind of upbringing, House Yu wouldn't last more than 3 generations. In the past, Fatty Lai might have been afraid of House Yu, afraid that they would cause trouble for his company in the future, but now that he was with Lin Yi, he felt that Lin Yi was omnipotent. House Yu was nothing compared to Lin Yi. After Yu Kuen left, Fatty Lai called Lin Yi. He had to tell Lin Yi about this. Boss, is it convenient for you to speak now? Fatty Lai asked. Speak. Lin Yi had just arrived at school, and there was no class today, so no one noticed that Lin Yi was answering the phone in the classroom. Just now, House Yu sent someone over. Fatty Lai said, It's a young man called Yu Kuen. He looks like he's in his 20s. House Yu? Yu Kuen? What are they here for? Hearing the 2 words House Yu, Lin Yi took a deep breath. They're here to ask about the fragment of the map that you bought at House Yu's auction. Fatty Lai said, They asked me if I know what it's used for and if I've seen similar fragments. Oh? Could it be that they purposely took out the fragment of the map from the auction? Lin Yi suddenly thought of the young man who followed him that night. His martial arts weren't weak. At first, he thought that he was sent by House Kong, but now that he thought about it, House Kong didn't have any masters. To be able to order a golden class master around, who else other than the aristocratic families could do it? Could it be that he was also from House Yu? Did he follow them for the fragment of the map as well? That's possible. Fatty Lai nodded. Otherwise, he wouldn't have tried to buy the fragment of the map from me. If they wanted it, they could have gotten it at the auction. They wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Huh. Lin Yi smiled faintly. The fragment of the map seemed to be a treasure. Lin Yi put it in his drawer because he didn't know what it was used for, so he didn't take it out to study it. Now, House Yu was treating it as a treasure? Could it be that they knew the secret of the map? Also, the funny thing is that this Yu Kuen kept saying that he wanted to give us a benefit. The benefit he was talking about was the distribution rights of our company's products. That's ridiculous. You call that a benefit? He just wants a benefit, right? Fatty Lai said sarcastically. If it was some other small company, they might treat it as a benefit. Lin Yi smiled faintly and reminded, House Yu has a lot of masters. Take care of your own safety. Don't fight them head-on. Of course, I know. I've always been humble. It's just that Yu Kuen is too arrogant. Fatty Lai shook his head. Did he leave just like that? He didn't say anything else? Lin Yi didn't believe that House Yu would give up just like that. If they really came for the map, they would definitely do something. He said that I'll wait and see. He wants me to know the price of offending House Yu. Fatty Lai said. I got it. Lin Yi's lips curved slightly. House Yu, it doesn't matter if you're a hidden house or a huge force. You better not mess with me. Otherwise, no one will look good in the end. Lin Yi hung up the phone. He didn't mind. Since House Yu wouldn't give up, he would just have to wait for them to come to him. After hanging up, Lin Yi looked at the message on his phone. There was a message when he picked up the phone. My daddy wants to treat you to dinner tonight. The message was from Mississippi. Chu Pengzhan wanted to treat him to dinner? Lin Yi thought that it was probably because he saved Meng Yao yesterday. Since Chu Pingzhan wanted to treat him, Lin Yi naturally wouldn't reject it. He replied, "Okay, I got it." The young mistress received the message. She lowered her head and glanced at it, but she didn't reply. Lin Yi felt that after what happened yesterday, Mrs. attitude towards him seemed to have changed. She wasn't like before, always looking for trouble with him. Their relationship seemed to have calmed down a little, but it seemed to be a little distant, because the first Mrs. attitude towards him seemed to be unapproachable, as if she was treating a stranger. Chapter 755. The miss with insomnia without a doubt. With Lin Yi joining the villa, Meng Yao was confused at first, but after Meng Yao completely accepted Lin Yi's existence, Meng Yao didn't want Lin Yi to leave. Lin Yi took care of her meticulously, even better than her father and Faubert. He allowed the miss, who lacked a mother's love since young, to find her own happiness. She even wanted to let Lin Yi stay in the villa for the rest of his life, taking care of her and Shu. But Meng Yao knew that it was impossible. There was still Tang Yun in the middle, and this was the reason why the miss hated Tang Yun so much. She didn't think that she hated Tang Yun because she liked Lin Yi, but because Tang Yun took away the happiness that was supposed to belong to her. If Lin Yi left, who would care for her? Meng Yao didn't want Lin Yi to leave. It wasn't until yesterday, when Lin Yi looked at her body, that Meng Yao had some strange thoughts in her mind. If Lin Yi was her boyfriend, then wouldn't he have left? Even Meng Yao herself was shocked by the thought. She liked Lin Yi? Was it true? Impossible. It must be because she was messing around all day, calling her first wife and second wife, that she was going crazy. But Meng Yao really wanted Lin Yi to stay. She didn't know what to do. Who could she talk to? With Yushu? That girl's mouth wasn't tight, and she had a wild imagination. She might not even be able to express herself clearly, and it would become that she was chasing after Lin Yi. Meng Yao didn't dare to tell her. Her father just called, saying that they were going out for dinner to thank Lin Yi. So Meng Yao sent Lin Yi a text. Seeing that Lin Yi agreed, Meng Yao calmed down. "Yao Yao sis? What's wrong? Why do you look like you're in a trance?" Yushu observed Meng Yao for a long time. Trance? No way, right? I didn't sleep well last night. Meng Yao shook her head. Oh, then why didn't you sleep well? Yushu asked. It's because I've just recovered from a serious illness. Meng Yao, naturally, wouldn't reveal her true thoughts. Oh, I thought you were thinking of Shield Bro, Yushu said, staring at Meng Yao. What do I want him to do? You think I'm like you? Meng Yao frowned, turning her head away from Yushu. Yao Yao sis, I feel like something's wrong with you, Yushu said seriously. What's wrong now? Meng Yao felt that Yushu was really annoying. She just liked to find out this and that whenever she had nothing better to do. It's hard to say. I'll tell you after I observe, Yushu said after some thought. Meng Yao didn't know what to say. Keep observing then. I'll go read. With that, Meng Yao picked up a revision book and started reading. Yushu stared at Meng Yao for a while but didn't find anything wrong with her. She went back to her book as well. After school, Lin Yi drove Tang Yun back to the hospital before heading to Pengzhan Business Hotel. Pengzhan was treating. Naturally, this was his first choice. Pengzhan Business Hotel seemed to be unusually crowded today. The outdoor parking lot in front of the entrance was already full. Lin Yi had no choice but to drive to the underground parking lot. The underground parking lot was a membership system. Only guests with Pengzhan Business Hotel's membership card could park there. When the manager of the parking lot saw Lin Yi driving a broken van with a diamond card, he was shocked. Was this the dirty hobby of rich people? Lin Yi didn't care about the expression on the manager's face. In fact, Lin Yi didn't have to drive this broken van to show off. It was just that there was a car that Lin Yi couldn't be bothered to change. If this car broke down or got lost, Lin Yi would just change to another one. The elevator in the parking lot went straight to the private room upstairs. It was the same room that Pengzhan treated him to last time. Lin Yi knocked on the door. Soon, Faubert opened the door and saw Lin Yi. Mr. Lin, you're here? Faubert's attitude towards Lin Yi changed from normal to sincere respect. This was because of his understanding of Lin Yi's strength. Lin Yi fought Uncle Zhu to a draw, and Uncle Zhu was lying on the bed right now. Lin Yi, on the other hand, acted as if nothing had happened. People with strength would always be respected by others. Faubert was a golden class physical practitioner. He was naturally respectful towards a mystic class spiritual practitioner like Lin Yi. This had nothing to do with Peng Zhan. It was just his personal respect towards Lin Yi. Faubert, am I late? Sorry to keep everyone waiting. Lin Yi smiled as he walked into the room. Oh, Shield Bro is here. Can I start eating now? Yushu obviously couldn't wait any longer. She looked at the dishes on the table with saliva dripping from her mouth. Shu. Meng Yao glared at Yushu. Don't be rude. Why do you look like a starving ghost? Be careful that you won't be able to find a husband in the future. Oh, I can if you can find one. Yushu didn't care at all. Meng Yao was speechless. Lin Yi, come sit. Peng Zhan stood up from his seat and walked towards Lin Yi. Peng Zhan was very confident in Lin Yi's ability. His daughter was safe this time, and the school's problem was solved perfectly. Lin Yi was the main reason. Uncle Chu, you're welcome. Lin Yi quickly made a gesture of invitation. Uncle Chu, please sit. Peng Zhan was Lin Yi's elder. Lin Yi, naturally, wouldn't be rude. Meng Yao saw that her dad stood up, and it wasn't nice for her to sit either. She held Shu's hand and stood up. Lin Yi, thank you for yesterday. Oh, Yao Yao sis, you're welcome. We're family, right? You're Shield Bro's first wife. Of course Shield Bro has to save you, or he won't have a wife anymore. Yushu mumbled with a bun stuffed in her mouth. Shu, what nonsense are you talking about? Meng Yao was pissed. A bun can't stop your mouth? Come, have another one. Meng Yao picked up a bun and forced it into Yushu's mouth. Wah wah. Yushu couldn't say anything. Her eyes rolled back. Peng Zhan looked at his daughter and Shu and found it funny. He couldn't help but laugh. Lin Yi was used to it. He shrugged. Don't stuff her to death. Meng Yao blushed at Lin Yi's words. She remembered what happened last time and felt sorry for Shu. She pulled the bun out of her mouth and put it on the plate. Peng Zhan smiled and invited Lin Yi to sit. Lin Yi sat on Meng Yao's left, and Yushu sat on Meng Yao's right. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.